Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 180. 180 Snatching by Force, 3. The eyelids of Yurong, who was originally lying on the ground half dead, twitched when she heard this, and a trace of panic flashed across her face. No. Impossible, she had done it so discreetly, how could anyone have found out? Young Master Bai, the left protector lowered her head to look at Bai Su and said in a low voice, "The right protector has already gone back to find your sister. She will be here soon. You should think about your decision first. I'll deal with this man first, Qian." His voice was not deliberately lowered, and it also reached Bai Zhengxiang's ears. These words made Bai Zhenxiang fly into a rage. Do we need a prostitute like you to meddle in our Bai family's business? There are no wrong parents in the world. Bai Su and Bai Su, these two siblings, should be struck by lightning. His words similarly indirectly proved Yurong's words. Bai Su's eyes darkened, and his chest heaved. He clenched his fists tightly, and his cold eyes reflected a cold light. If it was only Yurong who said this, everyone would not believe it. But the one who spoke now was Bai Zhenxiang. He was their biological father. Bai Xiao really wanted to ask if he and Bai Yan were his biological children. Or picked up. Bai Yan, what do you mean by not saying anything? I'm telling you, you must hand over the pill today. When Bai Zhenxiang saw that Bai Xiao was silent, he thought that he was feeling guilty and wanted to snatch the medicinal pill from his hands once again. However, upon seeing his actions, Bai Ling quickly took a few steps back. He's not my father, and I'm no longer a member of the Bai family. You can do as you please. This sentence proved Bai Su's decision. Regardless of whether Bai Zhenxiang was alive or dead, it had nothing to do with her, Hua. At the same time, on the busy street, a figure as fast as fire flashed by. The speed was like a gust of wind, shocking the surrounding people and causing them to look over. However, it was also because Bai Yan was in a hurry that she did not notice the person in front of her. That person seemed to be in a daze and did not see Bai Yan at all as he crashed into her with a bang. At that instant, Bai Yan's footsteps were forced to stop. Her brows furrowed slightly as she stabilized her footsteps before looking at the man she had bumped into. This man was about 40 years old. He was dressed in a brocade robe that set off his extraordinary temperament. His handsome face was slightly pale, and his pale lips were slightly trembling. Are you all right? Bai Yan thought that she had been too anxious to rush on her way, which was why she had bumped into the man in front of her. She said a little apologetically, I still have something to do and I'm in a hurry to leave. If there's a chance, I'll apologize for today's matter again. This man's body was obviously not in good condition. He was obviously frightened by her collision. Unfortunately, her mind was full of Bai Yan and she had no time to care about this matter. I'm fine. The man smiled slightly. His smile carried a hint of weakness and he did not get angry because of Bai Yan's collision this time. The moment he raised his head, his expression instantly froze. His eyes stared unwaveringly at Bai Yan in front of him. That emotion was filled with shock, surprise, hastiness, and excitement. Similar, they were too similar. How could there be such a similar person in this world? But before he could come back to his senses, the woman quickly left his side and disappeared without even looking back. Young master. An old man slowly walked out and supported the middle-aged man's weak body. He frowned slightly. The middle-aged man grabbed the old man's hand tightly and said with a trembling voice, "This girl is too much like her. Do you think she's back? But if it's her, why can't she recognize me?" Chapter 181. 181 The Young Master of Medicine Sect. Young Master, the old man said helplessly. Eldest miss was the same age as this girl when she went missing. She can't be her. Hearing this, the middle-aged man's mood became depressed again. That's right, this girl looked like she was in her early 20s. It couldn't be her. But, if it's not her, why does she look so much like her? Immediately send someone to investigate this girl's identity. Give it to me within a day. Cough, cough, cough. His sister had been missing for so many years. He would never let go of any hope. After saying this, the middle-aged man coughed violently again. He covered his mouth tightly with his hands. When he spread his hands, 2 pools of blood were so glaring. Young master, the old man's heart tightened, let's go back to medicine order. At least there are so many alchemists in medicine order. They can definitely save young master. Besides, sect master Suanji is so weak. The middle-aged man shook his head with a bitter smile. I know about my illness. All these years, I have never left medicine sect because of this illness. Now that I only have 2 years left to live, I only want to live the life I want for these 2 years. If Bai Yan was here and heard the 2 words medicine sect, she would definitely guess this man's identity. There were 3 great hidden sects on the continent. They were the Holy Land, Medicine Sect, and Ethereal Immortal Manor. There were many experts in the Holy Lands. Immortal Mansion was mysterious and extraordinary, and Medicine Sect was made up of alchemists. At the same time, her masters were not on good terms with Medicine Sect. Of course, this kind of enmity was not because they were old friends, but because the alchemists of Medicine Sect were rather arrogant. Even if their strength was not as good as the Holy Land, their alchemy skills were superior to the Holy Land. Every time there was a gathering of alchemists, the masters would be so angry that they would swear that they would find a talented alchemist as their disciple and slap the Medicine Sect in the face. Hence, there was the existence of Bai Yan. Cough cough. The middle-aged man coughed again. His body was so weak that he could be blown to pieces by the wind at any time. The old man hurriedly took out a pill and said with a worried frown, "Young master, it's better for you to take the pill. At least you'll be able to recover." Before he could finish his sentence, the man had already pushed the old man's hand away and his lips curled into a smile. To me, isn't living pain as well? It would be best if he could die earlier. Young master, the young miss is missing, and you're acting like this, won't the sect master be lonely for the rest of his life? Besides, you still haven't found Miss Yingluo. The old man bitterly persuaded. The middle-aged man's body trembled. That's right, I haven't found her yet. How can I die? Give me the pill, and I'll live one more day. Perhaps, Qian will have the chance to see her again. More importantly, that girl Yingluo might be related to her. Bai Yan naturally did not know about the matters here. When she had just run over to Bai Kui's side, she happened to see the left protector fighting with Bai Zhenxiang. When Bai Xiao saw Bai Yan, his eyes instantly lit up. "Xiao I'm late. Are you all right?" The moment Bai Yan said this, she felt very vexed. Before Protector Right went to find her, Hua Luo told her that the only midwife who knew the truth had died. She was eager to find the truth, so Protector Right did not see her at the old house. The moment she thought of the midwife's inexplicable death and Bai Su being beaten up, her heart was instantly filled with raging flames of anger. Her eyes were cold as she looked at the left protector who had just started fighting with Bai Zhenxiang. Jie, move. Chapter 182. 182 will not tolerate. 1. The left protector was stunned for a moment. He was unable to retract his fist and sent Bai Zhenxiang, who was in front of him, flying. It was only after Bai Zhenxiang had fallen into the crowd that he came back to his senses, embarrassed. "Master, I didn't take it just now." "Stop it. I don't blame you. Go to the side first." Bai Yan's face was shrouded in a layer of coldness as her cold eyes swept over Bai Zhenxiang and the Yu family's group. Zhen Zhen, who was the one who hit Xiao Er just now? It was time to settle the accounts one by one. Yu Fei's expression suddenly changed. He had not overlooked something wrong earlier. The man who had defeated Bai Zhenxiang with a punch had called Bai Yan master. Impossible. This Bai Yan should be a good for nothing. Bai Yan seemed to have noticed a hint of panic in her eyes as her gaze slowly swept over and the corners of her lips curled up. Did you use your hands? F***ck. Yu Fei bit his lips and said, this has nothing to do with me. It was Bai Su who secretly hid the elixir and gave it to an outsider. Bai Yan sneered. Since it's you, then there's no need to say more. Her figure leaped up and the tip of her foot kicked towards Yu Fei's face. That kick was extremely powerful and he could not even block it. Bai Yan's foot had already kicked his face. Pucci. Yu Fei spurted out a mouthful of blood and his body immediately flew out like a flying sword. He crashed into a small stall on the side of the street. Blood flowed out continuously and his eyes were full of fear. The entire street fell silent. Even the people who had been talking about Bai Su were so scared that they shut their mouths. Their eyes were wide open as they looked at the beautiful woman in red. Isn't Bai Yan Suanji a good for nothing? And her methods are too ruthless. This kick did not settle all the grudges. Bai Yan's hand had already pinched the space next to Yu Fei's and with a strong twist, a heart-wrenching cry instantly shook the world. Bai Yan, stop it! Stop it! Yu Rong's body had yet to recover when she saw Bai Yan's actions. She was so shocked that her face turned pale and her heart and liver were in pain. He's your uncle. Stop. Uncle. Bai Yan scoffed. I only acknowledge the Lan family as my uncle. When did a man with the surname Yu become my uncle? Besides, I haven't forgotten that you sold me to an old man over 50 years old 6 years ago so that this so-called uncle of yours could successfully obtain a medicinal pill to break through. Back then, I didn't want to sell myself out, but you said I was an ungrateful wolf. If you want to sell your daughter, you can sell Bai Ji and Bai Ruo Qian. But you all called me vicious and actually wanted to gift the 12-year-old Bai Ji to an old man as a concubine. Then what about you guys who are planning to sell me? Hiss. Bai Yan's every word and sentence made everyone present draw in a cold breath. They only knew that Yu Rong had planned to sell Bai Yan, but they had never thought that she would be so vicious. He could actually say such shameless words. At that time, it wasn't like the Bai family couldn't afford a third-grade pill. Why did they have to use their daughter to exchange for it? If Bai Yan did not agree, she would scold her for being cruel and unscrupulous. Ungrateful wolf. Who was the real ingrate? Seeing those mocking gazes, Yu Rong's heart trembled, and she said with unreasonable words, the Bai family has raised you for so many years. Even if you don't help us, how can you harm us? Did I harm you, or did you try to harm me by all means? Bai Yan did not stop. Her foot stepped hard on Yu Fei's chest, causing him to vomit 3 liters of blood. Chapter 183. 183 I won't tolerate it, too. Today, I, Bai Yan, will say this here and now the Yu family will definitely perish. Whoever dares to stop me will be killed. Bai Yan, you're so cowardly. Yu Rong was so angry that her entire body was trembling. The blood in her lower body was increasing, as if it had sucked out all her strength. Bai Zhenxiang coughed twice. He clutched his chest tightly and his angry eyes stared fixedly at Bai Yan. If people who did not know saw this, they might even think that Bai Yan was the enemy who killed his father, Suanji. What are you staring at? When the left protector saw that Bai Zhenxiang dared to glare at Bai Yan, she was so angry that she ran in front of Bai Zhenxiang and gave him a slap on the face. Yet, after suffering the slap, Bai Zhenxiang did not even dare to say a word. His expression was so ugly that it looked like he was constipated. Even if he didn't have a brain, but in the short exchange with the left protector just now, he clearly discovered that this man's strength was also at the heaven rank. It had even reached the advanced heaven rank. And he was only an intermediate level. Husband. Are you alright? A hint of panic flashed past Yurong's eyes as she looked at Bai Yan angrily. Bai Yan, it's fine if you treat me like this. He's your father. How can you allow your prostitute to treat your father like this? Bai Yan's expression turned cold as she said in a cold voice, Gao Yi, slap his mouth. As soon as these words fell, Gao Yi, who was already rubbing his hands, quickly flashed in front of Yurong and slapped Yurong's face fiercely, making her whole face swell. Bai Zhengxiang's expression changed. He used all his strength to support his body and said in a pained voice, Bai Yan, no matter what, I'm your father. I only want you to repent. Why do you not listen no matter what and even have to be so ruthless? Everyone. Speaking up to this point, he did not give Bai Yan a chance to speak and continued, all of you, come over and take a look at how this good daughter of mine is treating me, her father. It's fine that she went to Phoenix House to be a courtesan, but she also allowed the whoremasters to bully her father. A daughter like this should die a terrible death. Bai Yan raised the corners of her lips and did not stop Bai Zhenxiang. She merely quietly stepped on Yu Fei, who was under her feet, and looked at Bai Zhenxiang, whose saliva was flying everywhere, with a smile that was not a smile. At this moment, more and more people were gathering around. When they heard these shocking words, they were so shocked that they couldn't speak. Oh my God, did they hear wrongly? Could Bai Yan be Phoenix House's? Just as everyone was still in shock, an angry voice suddenly rang out, Bai Yan, I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. This voice was very familiar, so familiar that it caused Bai Yan to raise her brows. Her gaze indifferently swept towards the ashen-faced Nangong Yi. You've recovered so quickly after being hit 200 times. Nangong Yi's expression changed. He was able to recover so quickly all thanks to his father, the emperor, who had put in a lot of money and brought him the 4th-grade medicinal pill that the imperial family treasured. There were only 2 4th-grade pills in total. One was given to him and the other to Lin Er. That was why he had recovered so quickly. As for Bai Ruo Qian, she did not manage to obtain this 4th-grade medicinal pill. Humph, if it wasn't for this prince's quick recovery, I wouldn't have known that you've done such a thing. You truly disgust this prince to the extreme. Nangong Yi's expression was very ugly and his fists were clenched so tightly that they made cracking sounds. If people who did not know saw this, they would think that Bai Yan had made him a cuckold. Bai Yan ignored Nangong Yi and turned her head to look at Bai Zhenxiang. A cold glint suddenly appeared in her eyes. I don't know who told you that I'm the top courtesan of Phoenix House, but you'll probably never change your habit of trusting others so easily. But, Zhen. The corners of her lips lifted, and her smile was sinister. I don't care what you do to me, but I won't tolerate anyone bullying Xiao Er. Chapter 184. 184 She is the master of Phoenix House. Nangong Yi sneered. He had come rather late and did not see the scene of the left protector and Bai Zhengxiang's battle. He even thought that Bai Zhenxiang was so angered by Bai Yan that he vomited blood. Now that he heard these words, he laughed coldly, You're just a little girl from a brothel, who can you not let go? If it wasn't for Dikang, would you be able to act so tyrannically? Now if Dikang knows that you're Phoenix House's courtesan Belle, let's see if he will still want you. In the past, he had wanted to take this woman as a concubine, but a woman who had no self-respect and love did not even have the qualifications to be his maidservant. Oh, I didn't know that you even knew who the courtesan Belle of Phoenix House is. How come I didn't know that Phoenix House had a courtesan? A beautiful voice came from behind, but it contained a hint of coldness, making everyone's heart tremble. The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up. Ever since she took over Phoenix House, the women in Phoenix House were no longer differentiated by strength. Furthermore, the title of Suanji's top courtesan had long disappeared. The crowd automatically opened up a path for the group of people behind them to walk in. The two people leading the group were two beautiful women. The two women's expressions were both charming. The only difference was that the woman walking in the front was charming with a hint of coldness, while the other man was truly charming. Mother Chu? Isn't that Our Lady Chu from Phoenix House? What is she doing here? What did the woman in front of Mother Chu mean when she said that there are no courtesans in Phoenix House? Everyone's expression froze as they looked at the group of people walking over quickly. The Phoenix House had removed the title of courtesan belle. Only the people in the Phoenix House knew about it. It was not publicized. The only feature was that the annual courtesan belle competition no longer existed. The main reason was that Bai Yan had also said back then that Phoenix House's main business was to control the world's information and there was no need to waste time on these things. Therefore, Phoenix House had cancelled the courtesan belle competition. The left protector, who was slapping you wrong non-stop, stopped. He slowly walked in front of Hualuo and respectfully half-knelt on the ground. This subordinate greets Tower Master. Tower Master. Everyone was shocked by this form of address and turned to look at Hualuo in shock. She was the owner of Phoenix House, the one whose status in Luhuo Kingdom was equivalent to the emperor of a country. He's actually so young. Hualuo's face turned cold. I ordered you to protect Master Bai Yan. How could you let him get hurt? She asked. The left protector's heart trembled. I know my mistake. Please punish me. I'm not the one who should punish you. However, I don't think she has the time to punish you now. Hualuo curled her lips, and a cold glint flashed across her charming eyes. She raised her gaze and swept it towards the shocked Bai Zhenxiang. Bai Zhenxiang, it's really an eye-opener for a person to be so stupid. Without any evidence at all and just based on some guesses, he insulted Bai Yan as Phoenix House's top courtesan and even dared to publicly announce it. Hua Piao Piao Piao, owner of Hua Manor, Hua Piao Piao. The moment Bai Zhenxiang saw Hualuo, he stuttered a little. This was the person he had been trying to curry favor with but had no chance to meet. Now, it was right in front of him. He had yet to recover from his shock when Bai Yan's cold voice suddenly rang out. Hualuo, tie up all the Yu family members first. Was she ordering the owner of Phoenix House to help her? When Bai Zhenxiang saw that Bai Yan was so seeking death that she dared to order Hualuo, he instantly felt that his opportunity had arrived. He immediately stood up and berated, Bai Yan, who gave you the guts to speak to the owner of Phoenix House like this? Chapter 185. 185 She is the master of Phoenix House, too. Hualuo suddenly laughed out loud, and her voice was filled with mockery and sarcasm. Bai Zhenxiang, tell me, are you really stupid or are you just pretending to be stupid? If my master doesn't order me to do anything, are you going to do it? Hua Fi Fei, owner Hua, I'm only Fi Fei. Bai Zhenxiang was just about to explain when he suddenly came to a realization. His eyes widened abruptly, and his expression was filled with astonishment and shock. House Master Hua, what did you just call her? In reality, from the time the left protector had addressed Hualuo as Tower Lord, Bai Zhenxiang should have guessed Bai Yan's identity. However, he had only been thinking about how to get on Hualuo's good side and had completely forgotten how to address her as the left protector. He had made such a low-level mistake. Bai Zhenxiang, you should be thankful for your luck. Otherwise, you would have died long ago. Master had wanted to find out the cause of Lan Yu's death. Now, because the midwife was dead, she had to start from the Bai family to find out her identity. If not for this, the Bai family would have been destroyed long ago. Of course, Bai Zhenxiang relied on luck to save his life, but just based on his actions today, even if he did not die, he would be crippled by his master. After saying this, Hualuo ignored the shocked crowd and slowly walked to Bai Yan's side. She half knelt on the ground and respectfully said, "Master, your subordinate is late. Please punish me." Bai Yan was dressed in red as she stood among the crowd. The strong wind blew gently, and she was as beautiful as a peerless painting. Her thin eyes passed through the crowd and landed on Bai Zhengxiang's pale face, and the corners of her lips curled up into a cold arc. Bai Zhengxiang's footsteps staggered a few steps and he used all his strength to support himself against the tree behind him to prevent himself from falling to the ground. However, his heart was pierced by a needle, and he was in great pain. Why had he been spending so much time and effort these days? Wasn't it just to curry favor with Hualuo? But now, someone was telling him that the daughter he had abandoned was the master of Hualuo. Isn't it laughable? Bai Zhenxiang regretted it and his heart was also in pain. If he had known that Bai Yan had such an identity, from the day he returned, he should have treated her well. How could it be like this? Nangongyi's pale face was filled with disbelief. He clenched his fists tightly and his eyes were deep and painful. Just now, when he heard that Bai Yan was Phoenix House's top courtesan, he was rejoicing in his heart. She rejoiced at her choice back then and secretly mocked Dikang for marrying a woman who could be married to anyone. However, now, Luan Feng House's owner had personally told the world that Bai Yan was not a courtesan belle but the owner of the Phoenix House. That was the Phoenix House, which was equivalent to the existence of the royal family. Why was Bai Yan able to take over Phoenix House? What right did she have? Compared to Bai Zhengxiang's regret and Nangongyi's heartache, other than the initial shock, what was left of the surrounding people was disdain. It turns out that the Bai family has not even figured out Bai Yan's true identity and just said that she is Phoenix House's courtesan. Tisk, they even said that she is her relative. They actually slandered her like this without even checking. No wonder Bai Yan and her brother are so heartless. Even if such a relative was given to me, I would not want him. Previously, those people had even criticized Bai Xiao. However, compared to what Bai Zhenxiang had done, Bai Xiao's disobedience and unfilial piety were not worth mentioning. If he didn't disobey such a relative, did he have to be filial? If it was someone else, they wouldn't be able to do it either. Hearing the undisguised discussions around him, Bai Zhengxiang's face twitched. There were a few times when he wanted to speak, but after seeing Bai Yan's cold expression, he could not say anything. Chapter 186 186 Chapter 178, With a stepmother comes a stepfather. Impossible. There must be a mistake. How can Bai Yan be the master of Phoenix House? Just as everyone was silent, a sharp voice cut through the sky. No expression could be seen on Yurong's face that was covered in blood. Her eyes were filled with ferocity as she stared at Bai Yan. How could she trust Yingluo? The woman who was at her mercy 6 years ago had actually become the master of Phoenix House 6 years later. Even if the Phoenix House wanted to submit, it would be submitting to Ruoer. What was Bai Yan? The master of Phoenix House really had the worst vision in the world. The corner of Hualuo's lips curved up, and she looked at Yurong, who was lying on the ground, sarcastically, "You're my master's stepmother, it's true that with a stepmother comes a stepfather." Hualuo's last sentence was directed at Bai Zhenxiang. Bai Zhenxiang was so embarrassed that he almost found a hole in the ground to hide in. If it was someone else, he would have retorted, but in front of Hualuo, he didn't have the courage to do so. "Mother." Just as Bai Yan was already slowly walking towards Bai Zhenxiang and his wife, a soft voice came down from the sky. She stopped in her tracks. In an instant, everyone turned to look at the void swan Ni. The 4 silver wolves were pulling a throne, and they were approaching at the speed of the wind, leaving a silver shadow in the void. On the blood-red throne, the man's silver hair was like a charm, and he looked down on all living beings. His hand was on the handle of the throne, and a proud smile appeared on his peerless face. Beside the man sat a cute little boy. The figures sitting next to the man were like two demons, one big and one small. They were so stunning that no one could look away. The little white cat in the baby's arms was the first to run down, turning into a white shadow and rushing into Bai Yan's arms. Its pink and tender tongue licked Bai Yan's face and let out a meow. "Meow," she said. It had to be said that after leaving the sacred island, this little white tiger had become more and more like a cat. Sometimes, even Bai Yan would forget its identity as a white tiger in a trance. When Xiaomi ran madly into Bai Yan's embrace, Dikang's face turned black. The gaze he used to look at Xiaomi was filled with ferocity as if he wanted to tear it into 1,000 pieces. Bai Xiaochen jumped down from the throne and ran in front of Bai Yan. He raised his cute and tender little face and said softly, "Chen Er heard that someone bullied uncle. It's fine now. Mother can settle it." Bai Yan gently stroked Bai Xiaoquan's head and slightly raised the corners of her lips before turning her gaze towards Dikang. "Why are you here?" Dikang strode off the throne. He was dressed in a long purple robe, looking demonic and domineering. This king's future brother-in-law is being bullied, how can this king not come? Bai Su, who was originally still in shock, could not help but twitch a few times when he heard Dikang's words. Why was it so hard for him to accept being called little brother-in-law by Dikang? Which idiot bullied this king's future brother-in-law? Dikang's eyes swept across, his phoenix eyes carrying a ghastly chill as they gradually landed on Bai Zhenxiang. Bai Zhenxiang could not take this shock and knelt on the ground with a plop, his entire body trembling. "As your emperor, I'm Baiyan." Without waiting for Bai Zhenxiang to finish speaking, Yurong immediately stood up. With a face that even her mother could not recognize, she cried pitifully. "We beg your highness to seek justice for us. This Suanji Yurong couldn't have been beaten silly, right? The Azure Emperor was clearly here to protect Bai Yan and her brother, yet she still wanted him to make the decision for them." Chapter 187. 187 Treating Dikang as a fool. Yurong did not care that Bai Zhenxiang was desperately tugging at her sleeve as she cried out miserably, "Actually, your highness, back then when you were under the influence of an aphrodisiac, the person you picked up from the side of the road was not Bai Yan but my daughter Bai Ji. I really could not bear to see you being deceived by others like this, so I boldly told you the truth and asked your highness to make a decision." The crowd was in an uproar. Not to mention the others, even Nangongyi's eyes widened. He could not believe what Yurong had just said. The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up. In order to achieve her goal, Yurong really did not give up. Now, she even did not care about Bai Ji's reputation. 1-1. Yurong. When Bai Zhenxiang saw Dikang's cold gaze, his face turned slightly pale. Even if they wanted to speak of this matter, it was definitely not at this time. "You mean that Qian was Bai Ji that day?" Dikang's beautiful face had a smile on it. However, that smile was very sinister, so sinister that it caused Bai Xiaochen, who was at the side, to subconsciously take 2 steps back. Bad daddy is so scary at this time. That's right, Yurong tightly clutched her stomach. "Your highness, Bai Yan not only impersonated Ger, but she also got people to beat me and harmed my child. I beg your highness to take care of this." It was only then that Bai Zhenxiang reacted. Yurong, this fool, had caused her to be in such a miserable state and even caused him to be at odds with Bai Yan and her father. Her death was not enough to be pitied, but Sugzu. The child in her stomach was the Bai family's child. If she was saved in time, she might be able to save her life. If she was too late, she would really be gone. "Yurong, shut up." Bai Zhenxiang hurriedly glared at Yurong before turning to Dikang and kowtowed. "Your highness, Yurong has hurt the fetus. Please let us leave first. After all, the child is innocent. The debt has not been settled, who dares to leave?" The corners of Dikang's lips curled up and he sneered, Yan it seems that this Yurong is not only your stepmother, but she also treats her biological daughter like this. In order to climb up to this prince, she would smear her biological daughter's reputation. Yurong publicly announced that Baiji was not a virgin. Wasn't this tarnishing her own daughter's reputation? Hearing this, Yurong was stunned for a moment. No, it's not like that. She's really cowardly. Did you think that this prince would not know that Baiji had already tasted the forbidden fruit with someone else and now still want to frame this prince? Dikang's hand tightly pulled Bai Yan into his embrace as his domineering eyes looked down at Bai Zhenxiang and his wife, who were kneeling on the ground. Besides, this prince also doesn't know where you guys got the confidence to think that this prince would be able to mistake Yan for Baiji. Everyone looked at the woman in Dikang's embrace and understood something in their hearts. Even if Dikang was drugged with an aphrodisiac that day, it was impossible for him to listen to Yurong's words and mistook Bai Yan for Baiji. The looks of these two people were not on the same level, and there was not a single similarity in their facial features. Where did she get the confidence to think that Dikang would believe her? Yurong was dumbfounded. Under normal circumstances, when she said this, even if the Azure Emperor didn't believe her, he would still have to investigate, right? After Dikang investigated, he would understand even more that Bai Yan was not the woman from that night. Why did Dikang not even investigate and firmly believe that the person that night was Bai Yan? Bai Yan, say it. Say that you're not the person from that night? If you lie to others like this, will your conscience be at ease? Yurong bit her lips tightly as she glared at Bai Yan with resentful eyes. Bai Yan raised her brows. I sleep very well every night. I don't know if you'll see my mother coming to take my life at night. Her voice had just fallen when Bai Yan saw a trace of panic flash across Yurong's eyes. The corners of her lips curled up into a cold smile. Chapter 188. 188 Wait for this prince. As expected, Lan Yu's death was related to this woman. However, compared to Bai Yan, the others did not think much about it. They only thought that Yurong had mistreated Bai Yan and her brother. As her biological mother, Lan Yu would definitely come to settle the score with her. Yurong had just returned to her senses when she saw Bai Yan, who had already walked in front of her. She said in a panic, "What do you want to do?" Bai Yan's lips curled up. "I have a medicinal pill here. It can stop the child in your stomach from shedding tears." Yurong, who was already full of vigilance, became even more vigilant after hearing this. Would Bai Yan be so kind? However, your child is already dead and can't be brought back to life. This pill of mine can continue to grow after his death, and it will grow faster than before. After 3 months, this stillborn baby will slip down. A trace of fear flashed through Yurong's eyes. What are you doing? Bai Yan did not answer her and turned to Bai Zhenxiang. You're treating your own son like this for another man's child. I'll wait for the child to be born and do a blood test. I'll make you suffer so much that you'll wish you were dead. Looking at Bai Yan's serious expression, Bai Zhenxiang was startled. He looked at Yurong and asked, "Is what she said true?" Yurong bit her lips tightly. "Hubby, don't listen to her nonsense. She's trying to drive a wedge between us. How could I? How could Yingluo be pregnant with another man's child? Besides, the child is already dead. Why would Yingying have blood?" She regretted it. She regretted listening to her mother's words. In order to get the Bai family, which was almost an empty shell, she had to get pregnant with another man. However, there was no turning back. She must not be intimidated by Bai Yan. It was impossible for such a medicinal pill to exist in this world. Whether you believe it or not, everything will be proven in 3 months. Bai Yan did not give Yurong a chance to react. She took out a medicinal pill and quickly shot it into her mouth. With a gulp, it was directly swallowed by Yurong. She widened her eyes in horror and wanted to use her fingers to dig out the pill that she had accidentally swallowed. It's useless. My pill will melt when it comes into contact with water. It has already become one with you and will never be separated from you in this life. Bai Yan sneered. Bully her younger brother? Then she would make her fall into despair. These 3 months were enough for her to suffer. You still remember what I told you before? Bai Yan's gaze turned towards Bai Zhenxiang. I've said it before. If you don't return the medicinal pills, I'll let your strength return to the past. Now it seems that you can't hand over the pills anymore. Her meaning was clear. They could either return the pill or wait for their strength to regress and eventually become trash. I'm your father. Bai Zhenxiang shouted in a panic. Even now, he still wanted to use this identity to threaten Bai Yan, but he had forgotten how he had so confidently expelled her from the house that day. Sugzu. How do you want to deal with him? Suddenly, a low voice rang out beside Bai Yan's ear, causing her to be slightly startled. When she raised her head, she saw the man's peerless face that was like a demon. The distance between them was very close, so close that Bai Yan could feel the man's breathing. She had originally wanted to take 2 steps back, but the man pressed her back tightly, making her unable to retreat. I'm planning to make his strength regress. She did not intend to cripple Bai Zhenxiang in one go. Instead, she wanted him to start regressing from the heaven rank, all the way until he became a good-for-nothing, allowing him to enjoy this feeling of powerlessness and fear. Wait for this, king. After throwing these words, Dikang's robe brushed past her like a gust of wind brushing past her face. After a while, the man with the devilish and domineering aura was already standing in front of Bai Zhenxiang. Chapter 189. 189 A White Lotus, 1. Bai Zhenxiang's eyes widened in horror. He opened his mouth and wanted to beg for mercy, but he was unable to make a single sound from his throat. He could not even move his fingers. Take it. Dikang passed a medicinal pill in front of Bai Zhenxiang. His brows were haughty and his voice carried an insufferably domineering air. His words did not allow anyone to refuse. Bai Zhenxiang felt that he could finally move his fingers. He stretched out his trembling hand and shakily took the medicinal pill that Dikang passed to his eyes. As your emperor, may I ask, what is this? Dikang sneered, a poison that will turn you into trash. These words were heard by Bai Zhenxiang's ears, and he was so shocked that he almost threw the medicinal pill in his hand out. But he didn't have the guts. Bai Zhenxiang swallowed a mouthful of saliva with great difficulty and slowly closed his eyes. He trembled as he sent the medicinal pill into his mouth bit by bit. Pills usually melted in the mouth. As long as they touched saliva, they would turn into liquid and flow into the internal organs, not giving people a chance to regret. I've already consumed the pill, so can I leave now? Bai Zhenxiang forcefully propped up his body and crawled up from the ground. His face was deathly pale, and his lips were completely devoid of blood. In just one day, most of his black hair had turned white, his back was hunched, and his face was full of vicissitudes. Once the Bai family lost a heaven-rank expert, they would fall into an extremely miserable state. More importantly, not long ago, Bai Zhenxiang had suppressed his subordinate families in order to gather dowry. Let them go. The corners of Bai Yan's lips raised indifferently as she slowly walked towards Bai Zhenxiang. It's too easy to kill you. I want you to live a life worse than death. Bai Zhenxiang's body trembled, and he closed his eyes once again. His voice was trembling as he said, Do you really hate me that much? Wasn't there a saying that parents were all right? He was the father who had given birth to her and raised her. Could she really be so cruel? Bai Yan laughed coldly. From the day you only believed in you wrong and did not believe in me, you were no longer my father. Bai Zhenxiang clenched his fists tightly. After a long time, he finally relaxed and walked in the direction of the Bai family in a daze. He did not even look at you wrong from the beginning to the end. Sister, what should we do with these people? Bai Xiao walked to Bai Yan's side and looked at Yu Fei and Yu Rong who had fallen to the ground. He turned his head slightly and asked. Just now, which hand of Yu Fei hit you? You go and cripple that hand of his. A cold glint streaked across Bai Su's eyes as he walked up to Yu Fei in a few steps. Yu Fei's son and daughter were so scared that they didn't dare to say a word. They curled up in the crowd and looked at Bai Su with a pair of timid eyes, no longer as arrogant as they were before. Without hesitation, Bai Su pulled out his sword and cut the tendons in Yu Fei's hand. Yu Fei let out a heart-wrenching cry and fainted again. Seeing this scene, Yu Rong was also scared silly. She suddenly met Bai Su's cold eyes and simply rolled her eyes, pretending to faint. Hualuo, throw them back to the Bai family. From now on, the Bai family would no longer exist among the first-rate families. No one knew when Nangongyi had left. Perhaps, he did not have the face to continue staying here as he walked towards the Crown Prince's residence in a daze. As soon as they arrived at the Crown Prince's residence, a maidservant hurried over and bowed. Crown Prince, you're back, the Crown Princess wants to see you, but she can't get up, so she asked this servant to wait for your highness. Chapter 190 190 The White Lotus, 2. When he thought of Bai Ruo, Nangongyi's expression sank and he strode towards the Crown Princess Palace. In the luxurious bedroom, Bai Ruo was lying on her stomach on the bed. Her body was unable to move at all. Even moving a little would cause a tearing pain in her buttocks. The pain made her clench the bed sheets tightly, and a trace of hatred flashed in her eyes. She hated Bai Yan. She hated Bai Yan for being able to obtain Dikang's protection and hated Bai Yan even more for being so unfeeling. After all, she was her younger sister. No matter how wrong she was, she should forgive her, shouldn't she? She also hated Nangongyi. There were 2 4th-grade pills in the palace. If she could take the 4th-grade pills, her injuries would immediately recover. However, Nangongyi often talked about love but was so unreliable at the critical moment. He actually did not know how to give her the 4th-grade pill. The Crown Prince has arrived. At this moment, a report came from outside the door. Bai Ruo immediately restrained the expression in her eyes and looked pitifully at the man who strode in from outside the door. Your Highness the Crown Prince, please. Her voice was soft and weak. If it was in the past, no matter how unhappy Nangongyi was, it would vanish into thin air under this soft voice. But now, Nangongyi's mind was filled with Bai Yan and his expression was very irritable. Bai Ruo, do you know what happened today? Ruo doesn't know. Bai Ruo's face paled. Ever since she knew Nangongyi, he had never called her by her full name. Could it be that something had happened that she did not know about? Today, I saw your parents announcing on the streets that Bai Yan is the top host of Phoenix House. Bai Ruo's eyes were filled with surprise. Her willowy brows furrowed slightly. That's impossible. How could my sister be the top host in Phoenix House? If Bai Yan was really Phoenix House's number 1, Nangongyi's expression should be one of disgust and disdain and not this irritable and disdainful one. Your Highness Crown Prince. Bai Ruo bit her pale lips and looked at Nangongyi with teary eyes. Father and mother must have made a mistake. It's impossible for sister to do such a thing. After hearing Bai Ruo's words, the expression of Nangongyi, who originally had a gloomy face, improved a lot. No matter how many mistakes the Bai family had made, they were all the Bai family's fault. Her Ruoer was so kind, how could she join them in their evil ways? That's right, you've guessed correctly. This time, it's not as simple as getting it wrong. Nangongyi laughed bitterly. Bai Yan, Sugzu, is the master of Phoenix House. The master of Phoenix House. These few words were like a heavy hammer, ruthlessly chiseling into Bai Ruo's heart, making her face paler. Fortunately, she was seriously ill in bed and did not attract Nangongyi's attention. Crown Prince, Bairuo tightly clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. Her lips forced a smile as she softly said, I really didn't think that my sister would be Phoenix House's number one. But this is also good. After all, she is my sister. I will only be happy if she is living well. Nangongyi looked at Bairuo with a complicated expression. Bai Yan treated you like this and even crippled Bai Zhenxiang now. Don't you hate her at all? Bai Ruo's body trembled a few more times. She gently closed her eyes, her face full of pain. She is heartless and I can't disregard family. Crown Prince, my sister, and I are different. She can disown her own family, but I can't bear to do that. She opened her eyes and looked at Nangongyi. Besides, I believe that my sister will change for the better one day. Chapter 191 191 The Valley Master of the Zither Valley, 1. Ruoer, Nangongyi sighed and pulled Bai Ruo into his arms with heartache. I didn't leave the 4th grade pill for you. Will you hate me? Bai Ruo lowered her eyes and gently said, Crown Prince, you're my husband. You're also my heaven. As long as you're fine, it's worth it for Ruoer to exchange her life for it. What's more, a 4th grade pill. Seeing that Bai Ruo was so sensible, Nangongyi's heart ached even more. Ruoer, I, Nangongyi, am so fortunate to have a perfect wife like you. Don't worry, I will not let you down in this life. Crown Prince, Bai Ruo tightly held Nangongyi's hand, since sister is no longer a waste, then letting her marry into the royal family would not be considered as tarnishing the royal family's reputation. Why don't you let her be your secondary consort? Nangongyi's heart suddenly jumped. He lowered his eyes and stared at the woman lying on the bed. Will you really let Bai Yan be my secondary consort? If Bai Yan really became his concubine, then Phoenix House's power would be equivalent to being in his hands. Only a fool would refuse such a good deal. Crown Prince, as long as you want, so what if Ruoer suffers a little? Bai Ruo's eyelashes trembled slightly as sparkling tears hung on them. Her tone was delicate and pitiful. If it was the Nangong of the past, his heart would have ached and he would have long sworn to never let Bai Yan enter the manor. But now, when he thought of the woman's unparalleled, picturesque face, Nangongyi hesitated. Ruoer, Prince Kang's strength is something that even my imperial father fears. If I want to snatch Bai Yan away from his hands, I'm afraid it won't be that simple. When Bai Ruo saw that Nangongyi was really interested in Bai Yan, she could not help but panic a little. However, the words had already been said and it was no longer easy to take them back. Crown Prince, I heard some time ago that the Canyon Valley was looking for a person. That person, Lao Ai, is Dikang. She bit her lips and said in a weak voice. The Zither Valley. Nangongyi frowned. When did Bai Ruo have contact with the Zither Valley? Bai Ruo sensed Nangongyi's doubt and said gently, Crown Prince, I also accidentally got to know the people from the Canyon Valley not long ago. At that time, they didn't know Dikang's identity and even asked me about it. However, they urged me to wholeheartedly want Ger to become the Kang Wangfei, so I didn't tell them Dikang's identity. Nangongyi's eyes darkened. Do you know who's looking for Dikang? The Valley Master of the Zither Valley. Bai Ruo's eyes flickered. Crown Prince, write a letter and send it to the Canyon Valley, telling them of the Valley Head's identity, Dikang. At that time, it will be very difficult for Bai Yan to become the Kang Wangfei. Nangongyi glanced at Bai Ruo and was silent for a moment. The strength of the Gukhan Sound Valley is about the same as that of the Phoenix House. The master of the Phoenix House is also Bai Yan. If we use the Gukhan Sound Valley to suppress Bai Yan, it would probably not work. Crown Prince, Bai Ruo tried to stand up, a gentle smile appearing on her snow-white face. Have you forgotten how she treated me when I was with you? If the Gukhan Valley's Valley Master expressed her love for Dikang, With my sister's personality, would she easily let it go? In reality, what Bai Yan had done to Bai Ruo back then was all said by Bai Ruo's mouth. However, Nangongyi had always believed in her without a doubt and also thought that Bai Yan had really bullied and humiliated Bai Ruo in the Bai family. Therefore, his loathing for Bai Yan gradually increased under Bai Ruo's cries. Nangongyi thought for a moment and understood Bai Ruo's meaning. You want to let Dikang be disappointed in Bai Yan? And then separate them. Chapter 192. 192. The Valley Master of the Zither Valley, 2. In any case, Dikang was a man. All these years, he had been indifferent to the women of Luhuo Kingdom because those women were not worthy of his attention. The Valley Master of the Gukhan Sound Valley was different. It was said that Mukinga, the Valley Master of the Gukhan Sound Valley, was extremely beautiful and talented. No man could remain unmoved by such a suitor. If at this time, Bai Yan fell out with Mukinga in order to fight for favor, Dikang would definitely recognize what kind of woman she was and abandon her. It's not impossible for Bai Yan to want to be my secondary consort. Nangongyi curled the corners of his lips. It's just that this crown prince will not allow her bastard child to enter the manor. The corners of Bai Ruo's mouth slightly raised into an imperceptible smile. Crown prince, you can be at ease. Elder sister is a smart person. She knows what kind of actions will benefit her the most. Although Dikang is strong now and elder sister also has the power of Phoenix House in her hands, but their combined strength is still not comparable to Lin Er's identity. On the day Lin Er was born, all the beasts faced their ancestors. He is destined to have an extraordinary life. Even the Azure Emperor will be trampled under his feet in the end. Bai Ruo slightly raised her head, her eyes suffused with a gentle light. Nangongyi's expression turned for the better. If she is really that smart, why did she refuse to be my concubine and choose Dikang? So what if the Azure Emperor was powerful? In the future, the world would belong to Nangonglin. No matter if it was Dikang or Phoenix Tower, they would be ruthlessly stepped on by his son and would never be able to turn over for the rest of their lives. Crown Prince, Bai Ruo chuckled, isn't that because you don't love her? She naturally chose Dikang. Even if you pretend to love her, she will immediately throw herself into your arms. Nangongyi laughed coldly. Bai Yan is indeed very smart. It's a pity that her vain way of doing things makes it impossible for me to ever fall in love with her. At most, he would only covet her beauty and power. It was impossible to fall in love with her. Bai Ruo slowly heaved a sigh of relief. She was afraid that after Nangongyi saw Bai Yan's change, he would be unable to extricate himself from being attracted to her, so she had deliberately said these words. She had been with Nangongyi for many years and naturally knew what kind of woman he hated the most. As long as he was convinced of Bai Yan's vanity, then it would be impossible for him to fall in love with her in this lifetime. Ruoer, rest well. I'll handle this matter. Nangongyi comforted Bai Ruo. I promise you, after Bai Yan becomes my secondary consort, I'll take the Phoenix House from her hands and give it to you. Bai Ruo lowered her eyes, hiding the joy in her eyes. She said in a soft voice, Crown Prince, to me, even the world can't compare to you, let alone that Phoenix House. Ruoer doesn't care for it? There was nothing more affectionate than a woman you love telling you that the whole world couldn't compare to you. Nangongyi was moved as he held Bai Ruo's hand. Bai Ruo, I will never take back what I've said. Just wait to be the master of this Phoenix House. But, elder sister won't agree, Zhen. Bai Ruo pursed her lips and helplessly said. Nangongyi laughed. In the mainland, the husband is the king. When she becomes my secondary consort, won't I have the final say in the ownership of Phoenix House? After saying this, Nangongyi let go of Bai Ruo's hand and his fingers gently stroked the woman's hair that was stuck to her forehead. I'm going to write a book for the Kanyin Valley now. Just wait for you and your sister to reunite, ha ha ha. Nangongyi did not know if it was because the Phoenix house would soon belong to him, or if it was because he would have a woman as beautiful as Bai Yan in the future, but it made him feel very good. He laughed twice and walked out of the door. Chapter 193. 193. So she's not her daughter. Bai Ruo looked in the direction Nangongyi had left and clenched her fists tightly, her nails digging into her palm. Bai Yan, you've gotten off easy this time. After I snatch the Phoenix house from your hands, I won't keep you anymore. She was not generous enough to share her husband with her enemy. At the Imperial City Inn. On the bed, a middle-aged man was half leaning, his face pale and coughing non-stop. At this moment, the door was pushed open and the old man from before walked in. He cupped his fists respectfully and said, "Young master, I've investigated the matter you asked me to." "Oh," the middle-aged man raised his eyebrows. "What's the background of that young lady, Yingluo?" The old man glanced at the middle-aged man. "Her mother is Lan Yu, a daughter of the Lan family. Her father is the head of the Yun family. However, she was expelled from the family some time ago." The middle-aged man frowned. "Are you sure that her mother is the young lady of the Lan family, and not because she wanted to adopt him?" "Young master, it's true. I think that the young lady only looks like young miss and may not be related to young miss." The old man sighed helplessly. He also found it strange that there were two people in this world who looked so similar. However, it was already very obvious that the girl was not the young lady's daughter. The middle-aged man coughed hard as if he was about to cough his lungs out. After a long time, he stopped coughing and asked, "Do you know where that girl lives?" "Young master, are you trying to trick me?" The old man looked at the middle-aged man in surprise and asked with a frown. The middle-aged man laughed bitterly. "I have no choice. Ever since I saw that girl, her appearance has been stuck in my mind. Even if she has nothing to do with my sister, I still want to see her." The old man was silent for a long time. "Young master, your identity is a little sensitive. If people know about Huan, it's fine. I'm just going to see her. There won't be any danger." The man's hands supported him on the bed and he struggled to get up. "You lead the way." "All right, follow me, young master," the old man said with a bitter smile. By right, he should have written a letter to the sect master to inform him of this situation. However, ever since the eldest miss had disappeared, the sect master had almost gone crazy. For many years, he had been sending people out to search for her without stopping. If the sect master knew that someone who looked like the young lady had appeared, he would definitely leave medicine sect behind and rush over. By then, things would be even more difficult to deal with. Ahem. The middle-aged man coughed again. When the old man saw this, he wanted to help him up, but he was blocked by his hand. "I'm not so sick that I can't walk. You don't have to help me. It's not good for her to see Han." The middle-aged man's lips curled into a smile as he slowly walked out of the door. He coughed every 2 steps he took, and his weak body made the old man's heart race. However, he understood that his young master had always been stubborn. Once he decided on something, no one could change his mind. The old man had already inquired about Bai Yan's residence. It was originally not a long journey, but he forcefully accompanied his young master for an hour. At this moment, outside the old house, the middle-aged man stopped in his tracks. His handsome face had a smile on it as he slowly walked towards the 2 guards at the door. "What are you doing?" The 2 guards saw the middle-aged man approaching and asked with a stern voice. The old man was about to get angry when he saw the 2 men stop his young master, but the middle-aged man raised his hand and stopped him. "I'm looking for Bai Yan." Chapter 194. 194. Chapter 186. Treating your illness. Bai Yan sat in the pavilion, holding a book in her hands. Her red dress was spread out like a carpet. Her legs were crossed on the long bench, the corners of her brows raised, and her faint smile was like a flourishing peach flower, beautiful beyond words. At this moment, a guard rushed in and saw the woman sitting in the pavilion. He quickly walked up and said respectfully, "Master, someone has come to visit." Bai Yan closed the book in her hand and calmly looked at the guard who came to report. "Who is it?" He said his name is Bai Zhanpeng. Bai Zhanpeng. This name was very unfamiliar to Bai Yan and it also made her frown. "Let him in first." The guard accepted the order and left. Not long after, the two of them followed the guards in. Bai Yan looked at the thin and weak-looking white-robed man and a look of surprise flashed in her eyes. "It's you. Miss Bai, I wonder if you mind if I take the liberty to visit you?" Bai Zhanpeng smiled. His face was pale, and his body was so weak that he was thinner than a stick. Bai Yan stood up from the pavilion and said with raised brows, "I'd like to apologize for accidentally bumping into you before. But, Yingluo, how did you know where I lived?" "Miss, you've misunderstood me. I'm not here to ask for an apology." Bai Zhanpeng coughed twice and forced a smile. "I'm only here to pay you a visit because I have a good impression of you." If the person who said this was someone else, perhaps Bai Yan would have mistaken him for a lecher who was trying to strike up a conversation. However, when these words came out of Bai Zhanpeng's mouth, she did not have any other thoughts. It was a strange feeling, and even she couldn't figure out what was going on. "Your body is in a bad condition." Bai Yan glanced at Bai Zhanpeng and her brows furrowed slightly. He was already beyond cure and did not have many years left to live. Bai Zhanpeng laughed. "There is no way to heal my body. The only reason I'm leaving home is to find my long-lost sister. Now that I've seen you, Miss Bai, I feel that my sister has returned to my side." Hearing this, Bai Yan's heart skipped a beat. "How old is your younger sister? How did she go missing?" "She's almost 40 years old now. I don't know how she disappeared. I only know that she left the house 20 years ago and never came back." "Almost 40 years old? She didn't go missing when she was still a baby." Bai Yan was a little disappointed. From the looks of it, she could not possibly be this man's younger sister, Wan. "Your body's condition is very serious. I wonder if it's convenient for you to come and check it out?" Bai Yan's brows relaxed as she said this. "Young master." The old man's heart trembled. He quickly tried to stop Bai Zhanpeng, but he saw Bai Zhanpeng shaking his head at him. A smile appeared on Bai Zhanpeng's face. "It's not inconvenient at all." "Miss, are you an alchemist?" he asked. "Not bad." Bai Yan did not deny it and slowly walked to Bai Zhanpeng's side. She released a wisp of mental energy and it entered Bai Zhanpeng's body to check his body. Bai Zhanpeng's body trembled, and then he stopped moving. There was a smile on his lips, and it was like the spring sun that bathed the hearts of people. The old man was so nervous that he broke out in a cold sweat. If this girl wanted to harm the young master at this time, the young master would not be able to resist at all. Even he would not be able to help. Thankfully, after a while, Bai Yan pulled out her mental energy. Her expression was solemn as she asked, "Were you seriously injured 10 years ago?" Chapter 195. 195 To treat your illness, 2. "That's right," Bai Zhanpeng nodded. "I was indeed injured by someone 10 years ago." "That's right. 10 years ago, an alchemist gave you a pill. Although that alchemist saved your life, the person who seriously injured you left a trace of Zhen Qi in your body. For the past 10 years, the Zhen Qi has been destroying your internal organs, causing your body to deteriorate day by day." Bai Zhanpeng was stunned. He forced a smile and said, "An alchemist has told me all of this before. However, if I forcefully break the true Qi in my body, it will damage my meridians. At that time, I will definitely become a waste. Since that's the case, I might as well die with dignity." Who told you that destroying true energy would damage the meridians? Bai Yan's lips curled up into a smile as her black eyes looked at the little white tiger that was lying on the ground not far away, basking in the sun. Her eyes flickered. Xiaomi, I'll give you a mission. Xiaomi jumped into Bai Yan's arms with a swoosh. It looked down at Bai Zhanpeng from above and a look of disdain appeared in its eyes. This human wasn't a great beauty, and he actually wanted it to suck out the remaining true energy for him. He didn't want it. 2 plates of dongpo meat. Bai Yan gritted her teeth and said. Xiaomi snorted. It was not going to sell its dignity for 2 plates of dongpo meat. And a roasted suckling pig. Bai Yan continued. Xiaomi's eyes flickered. Oh, he would consider it? I'll personally cook your meals for a month. Bai Yan hardened her heart. Xiaomi's eyes lit up and it raised its little paw to pat Bai Yan's hand. Deal. Dignity. In front of delicious food, it was all bullshit. In order not to torture her stomach for a month, she just sucked in qi. What's the big deal? Bai Yan turned her head to look at Bai Zhanpeng. You and Xiaomi will make a trip there. It will suck out the true energy in your body. Bai Zhanpeng and the old man were both surprised. The true qi that had left all the alchemists in medicine sect helpless was something she could solve with just a few words. Miss Bai, you're too kind. A bitter smile appeared on Bai Zhanpeng's face. This true energy has been in my body for 10 years. In these 10 years, my body has been severely damaged. Even if my true energy is destroyed, I can only live for a few more years. Bai Yan raised her brows. Since I've already said it, I naturally have a way to let your body gradually recover. If you believe me, you can go with it? Young master. The old man was anxious. He knew that if the young master had a choice, he would definitely believe this girl of unknown origin. Young master, you can't be careless. Bai Zhanpeng glanced at the old man and smiled. I don't have many days left to live anyway, so why not trust her this once? After saying that, he turned to Xiaomi and said, lead the way. Xiaomi barked and its eyes were filled with disdain. Before she left, Bai Yan secretly sent a look to Xiaomi. Xiaomi blinked at her, indicating that it understood what she meant. The old man hurriedly wanted to follow, but before he could take a few steps, he was blocked by Bai Yan. If you want to save him, then don't go. How dare you? The old man's eyes were filled with anger. If anything happens to the young master, we will never let you off. Bai Yan did not care about the old man's anger and took large strides to the pavilion. She flicked her sleeves and sat down. She turned to the guard by the side and asked, the little lord still hasn't returned. The little lord said he was going to play with his friends and will probably only be back when it's dark. Chapter 196. 196 To treat your illness, 3. Bai Yan paused and seemed to inadvertently ask, where's the Azure Emperor? After Prince Kang resentfully moved everything over, he had something to attend to and left. The guard carefully looked at Bai Yan and reported. Bai Yan was so angry that she laughed instead. He really intends to come and stay here for a long time. However, it's all right. When his imperial residence is rebuilt, I'll let him pack up his things and get lost. Unfortunately, Bai Yan's thoughts were too beautiful. To a person like Di Kang, as long as he came, he would not be able to chase away Suanji. Bai Zhanpeng's true energy could not be resolved in a short while, so Bai Yan decided not to bother about anything else. She once again opened the book in her hand and quietly read it, forgiving the old man to the side. The old man did not dare to express his anger. After all, his young master's life was still in her hands. He could only stand in the courtyard and silently wait for Suanji. Imperial City Street. At the food stall, Wang Xiaopang was gobbling down the food like a wolf, almost swallowing the entire bowl in front of him. I've never thought that there would be such delicious food in the Imperial City. It's even more delicious than the food in those big restaurants. He smacked his lips before looking at Bai Xiaochen in front of him. Bai Xiaochen, why didn't you introduce me to your new friend? Initially, Nangong Sun was still surprised at how much little fatty Wang could eat, but upon hearing his words, her body stiffened and she lowered her head. His name is Nangong Sun. Bai Xiaochen pointed at Nangong Sunday in the future, he will be under my protection. No one can bully him. At this moment, Bai Xiaoqin's small face was raised arrogantly, and his young voice was filled with a domineering aura. Your brother is my good brother. Little fatty Wang patted Nangong Sun's shoulder with his greasy hand and stood up from his chair. Don't worry, with me here, I'll beat up anyone who dares to bully you. Right at this moment, Bai Xiaochen was all smiles as he pointed behind him. Little fatty Wang, it's time for you to show off. Do you see that little fatty? He's been bullying her for the past few years. Following Bai Xiaoqin's gaze, little fatty Wang saw a lump of fat with a group of guards walking down the street with their heads held high. Oh my god, there's someone fatter than me in this world. Little fatty Wang immediately rolled up his sleeves. Not only are you fatter than me, but you also dare to bully my friend. See if I don't beat him up until all his teeth are on the ground. After little fatty Wang said that, his ball-like body quickly dashed toward Nangong Linear. Let's go and take a look. Bai Xiaochen pulled Nangong Cheng up, and his eyes shone with a gloating glint. Nangong Yan was stunned and frowned. This Yingluo isn't very good. He wasn't afraid of Nangong Lin. With the Empress Dowager's protection, he didn't have to be afraid of anything. Even if he was afraid, he would take revenge when he had the chance. However, Nangong Lin's status was still there. If little fatty Wang provoked Nangong Lin for him, wouldn't he get into trouble with Yingying? Just as Nangong Sun was hesitating, little fatty Wang pounced on Nangong Lin and threw his fist onto his body. The expressions of the guards changed drastically. They wanted to stop him, but Bai Xiaoqin's erratic figure had already blocked their eyes. Two children are fighting, and you, as adults, want to interfere. Aren't you ashamed? Bai Xiaochen raised his small head and spoke in an experienced manner, as if he had forgotten that he was also just a 5-year-old child. Chapter 197 197 King of the Children, 1. Where did this little brat come from? Get lost. The guard was furious, and his sword fell towards Bai Xiaochen. But Bai Xiaoqin's head tilted to the side and dodged it. He pouted his small lips, and his expression was one of dissatisfaction. Mother told me not to fight under normal circumstances, so I won't fight with you. Although I won't fight with you guys, he. Bai Xiaochen tilted his head and smiled innocently. I also have helpers. He put his little hand to his mouth and whistled. In an instant, a group of fiery red foxes ran from the street not far away and quickly pounced on the guards. Huck it, huck it. Little fatty Wang pressed down on Nangong Yan and gave him a violent beating before standing up. He looked at the fire foxes in front of Bai Xiaochen in shock. Bai Xiaochen, you're raising so many foxes in your house? Bai Xiaochen pouted. Mother said that Anta wants a fox and asked me to find a group of foxes for Anta to choose. These foxes just happened to arrive here, so I called them over to cheer for you. This was more than just cheering. It simply had heaven-defying divine power. Little fatty Wang was so shocked that he couldn't even close his mouth. His eyes that were squinted into slits were shining. Bai Xiaochen, we've been friends for so long. Why don't you give me one too? Bai Xiaochen thought for a moment and shook his head. No way. I have to let Anta choose first. It will only be your turn after Anta has chosen. Little fatty Wang was smiling so widely that his chubby face bloomed like a flower. Fine, I won't be your brother anymore, I'll be your little brother. However, my request is that you must find me a female fox. Why a female fox? It's all because my father said that I'm so fat and stupid, so I won't be able to find a wife in the future. So, I might as well find a female fox and wait for her to cultivate to become an adult. I'll marry her as my wife. When those foxes who were originally surrounding Bai Xiaochen heard little Fatty Wang's words, they hurriedly took a few steps back and looked at Bai Xiaochen with pitiful eyes. Little Fatty Wang, you've scared my fox. Bai Xiaochen placed his hands on his hips and glared fiercely at little Fatty Wang. He then turned to look at Nangong Sunday. Do you want to pick one when the time comes? Can I have the tiger? Nangong Yan pursed his lips. Why? Bai Xiaochen asked, feeling strange. Nangong Sun's eyes lit up. The tiger is the king of all beasts. I also want to be a king. Bai Xiaoqin's small face darkened. Who told you that the tiger is the king of all beasts? What's wrong with being a fox? Didn't that stupid Xiaomi of his also submit to his power? Oh, no, it was to submit to mother's delicious food. Of course, a fox was stronger than a tiger. Whoever said that a fox couldn't do it, he would get angry with them. Did I read this in the books? Nangong Cheng scratched his head and asked in confusion, am I wrong? Bai Xiaoqin's eyes flickered. I can call a tiger over for you. It's just that Ching Ching, in the future, you must say that a tiger is inferior to a fox. Yes. Nangong Sun nodded seriously. I promise that in the future, I'll say that foxes are stronger than tigers. Only then did Bai Xiaochen nod his head in satisfaction. You're speaking the truth. Tigers, lions, dragons, phoenixes, all of them have to lie down in front of a fox. Yes, boss. Nangong Cheng straightened his body. Little Chen was so powerful, so what he said was definitely correct. What's a boss? Bai Xiaochen blinked his large eyes. When did he become the boss? Chapter 198. 198 The King of the Children, 2. Didn't little Fatty Wang say that if we take your demonic beast, you'll be our boss from now on? A smile appeared on Nangong Sun's face. Besides, I feel that we won't be at a disadvantage if we follow you. Bai Xiaochen nodded his head in realization. He patted little Fatty Wang and Nangong Sun's shoulders and said arrogantly, if you follow this Bao Bao, you'll have meat to eat. Wang Little Fatty saw that Bai Xiaochen had convinced Nangong Cheng to believe in him without any doubt and couldn't help but feel a little bored. He sat down and took a few heavy breaths. I'm tired from the beating. I want to rest for a while. When he sat down, all the weight was placed on Nangong Lin's chest. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His eyes turned black and he fainted. It's getting late and my mother is waiting for me to eat. I have to go back first. Bai Xiaochen tilted his head and looked at Nangong Sunday. If you go back to the palace now, that group of bad guys will bully you in a place where the Empress Dowager can't see. Why don't you come back to my house with me first? All right? Nangong Sun nodded seriously. I'll listen to you. Little Fatty Wang, who was at the side, rolled his eyes. This Nangong Sun was really easy to fool. Just a few words from Bai Xiaochen and he was able to fool him into returning home. Brat, you dare to sleep in front of your chubby master? Little Fatty Wang had enough rest. He got up from Nangong Lin's body and slapped him twice, waking him up from his coma. Nangong Lin was so aggrieved that he almost cried. He had really fainted and wasn't sleeping. I'm warning you, Nangong Sun is under my protection. If you dare to bully her again, I will drag you to a place where no one is around and find a bunch of men to *ck you. Little Fatty Wang raised his chubby face arrogantly. He had heard a tyrant say this to a woman. He didn't expect that he would be using it at this time. My father is the crown prince. Nangong Lin sobbed while trembling. Wang Little Fatty raised his hand and slapped him. Who is the crown prince? My father, Zhen Zhen. Pa. Another slap. You're only allowed to say one word. Father, Zhen Zhen. Only then did little Fatty Wang leave Nangong Lin behind. Hey, good son. Nangonglin's tears rolled down his face. You can't bully me like this. Bai Xiaochan, let's go back. Little fatty Wang dusted his hands and turned around to leave. However, he had only taken a few steps when he suddenly stopped. His face twitched as he asked, wait, who did he say his father was? Crown Prince. Bai Xiaochen replied with good intentions. Little fatty Wang immediately pulled a long face, we're finished. Don't worry. With me around, the Crown Prince won't be able to take revenge on you. Bai Xiaochen patted his chest and made a solemn vow. Little fatty Wang wiped his tears. It's not that. My father will beat me to death if he finds out. His father had repeatedly warned him not to stir up trouble outside, but he had hit the Crown Prince's son. If this matter reached his father's ears, he would definitely beat him to death. It's all my fault, Yingluo. Nangong's son pouted her lips as she looked at little fatty Wang's pitiful face. No, it has nothing to do with you, little fatty Wang shook his head, isn't it just a beating? At most, I'll lose a layer of skin. What's the big deal? That bastard dared to bully my brother, he deserves to be beaten. Even if he knew that he was the son of the Crown Prince, he would still beat him up. His father couldn't possibly beat him to death over such a small matter, right? Forget it, you guys can go back first. He waved his hand, his expression a little bitter. Bai Xiaochen was a little worried. I'm just next door. If your father hits you, just give me a shout. I'll immediately go over to save you. Chapter 199. 199. Is this my biological father? Don't worry, brother. Little fatty Wang patted Bai Xiaoqin's shoulder and shook his head. He had an expression that said that he was going to meet his death, and he took large strides in the direction of the Wang clan. However, as soon as he returned home, a hand reached out and pinched his ear fiercely. The man said angrily, "You brat, tell me, what did you do today?" "Father, kiss me more." Wang little fatty cried out, "I didn't cause any trouble, I really didn't cause any trouble." "You didn't cause any trouble? If you didn't cause any trouble, why would you beat up the Crown Prince's son?" Wang Deqiu's face was full of anger as he rebuked sternly. Little fatty Wang almost cried. The news spread too quickly. How did his father find out so quickly? "Father, it was that bastard who went too far. He was the one who bullied others first. I couldn't bear to see it, so I beat him up," little fatty Wang said, feeling wronged. Also, Bai Xiaochen also participated in this matter. "If you don't believe me, you can go and ask him." Wang Deqiu released his hand doubtfully. "Little Chen also beat up the Crown Prince's son with you?" "It's true. That bastard bullied Bai Xiaoqin's friend. That's why I couldn't help but take action." "Oh, since little Chen is involved, it must be that bastard's fault first." Wang Deqiu glared at little fatty Wang, "You should follow little Chen more often in the future. If he asks you to hit someone, you must do it. If he doesn't ask you to do it, you are not allowed to do it, do you understand?" Little fatty Wang was dumbfounded. "Dad, why can I do it just because Bai Xiaochen told me to? When I make a move, can you promise not to beat me up?" Wang Deqiu slapped the back of little fatty Wang's head. She said unhappily, "Bai Xiaochen is such an obedient child, it was impossible for him to provoke others first, so it must have been others who provoked him." "Then you were not wrong to beat him up? Do you think that everyone is a demon like you? Beating people up without distinguishing between right and wrong? Was this Yingluo his biological father?" Little fatty Wang wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Why did he feel like he was picked up? "Father, what about the matter of me beating up the Crown Prince's son?" Little fatty Wang asked cautiously. "Isn't he just the son of the Crown Prince? If you hit him, then so be it. As long as you didn't hit the wrong person, it's fine," Wang Deqiu said disapprovingly. "If you have nothing to do, you should learn more from Bai Xiao Chen. If you were as obedient as him, we wouldn't have to leave the main family, and we wouldn't have been forced to this place. Afraid that Wang Deqiu would continue to hold on to him, little fatty Wang took advantage of his inattentiveness and ran away. His fat body was very agile, and by the time Wang Deqiu reacted, he had already run far away. This stinky brat! Wang Deqiu was very annoyed. You really need a beating. Thinking about how they were forced to leave the main family, Wang Deqiu was very angry. He really wanted to teach this brat a lesson. In the courtyard of the old mansion, Bai Yan lazily flipped through the book in her hand as the corners of her mouth gently curled up into an arc. As time passed, the old man's expression became more and more anxious. His palms were full of sweat and the gaze he used to look at Bai Yan became even more unfriendly. A soft and coy voice came from behind. When Bai Yan raised her head to look over, that small body pounced towards her and gave Bai Yan a big kiss on the face. Mother, I'm back. Nangong-sun is here with me. Bai Yan raised her brows and only then did she see Nangong-sun who had followed her over. Nangong-sun seemed to still be a little unaccustomed to it as her body was a little stiff. She looked at Bai Xiao Chen, who was in Bai Yan's arms, and a hint of envy appeared in her eyes. Chapter 200. 200 I'm willing to be your disciple. Bai Yan smiled. This fellow was still a child after all. Chen Er has always lacked a companion. If it's possible, can you stay by our side? Nangong-sun looked at Bai Yan in disbelief. Can I, Ying, stay? If you want to stay, no one will be able to kidnap you. Bai Yan slowly stood up and walked towards Nangong-sun with a smile. Moreover, your talent is not bad. It has been buried all these years. Now, I want you to be my disciple. Are you willing? I'm willing to stay. Nangong-sun said with joy in her eyes. Chen Er. Bai Yan patted Bai Xiaoqin's head. Bring him down to rest. Mother still has other things to deal with. Also, Hua. With a flip of her hand, she took out a bottle of pills and handed it to Nangong-sun. This pill can treat your external injuries. When your internal injuries are completely healed, I will give you a suitable cultivation technique to start cultivating. Nangong-sun looked at the pill that Bai Yan placed in front of him and his eyes turned red. He tightly held the porcelain bottle in his hand and raised his head with a determined look in his eyes. Master, in the future, I will definitely stand at the top and not let you down. In the future, Nangong-sun's words would come true. No matter how high he stood, he would never forget the person who had changed his fate. Nangong-sun, I'll bring you to your room. Bai Xiao Chen excitedly pulled Nangong-sun, and his small body quickly headed towards the side room. Bai Yan looked at the two little fellows' figures that were far away and could not help but laugh. Miss Bai Yan's judgment is not bad. The old man's gaze was complicated. Such a genius has not been discovered by you. Bai Yan received the tea that the servant girl handed over and gently took a sip. It seems that you can see it too. He is proud and unyielding. He will definitely be extraordinary in the future. I must bring such a genius to my son. Moreover, perhaps it was because of Bai Xiao Chen, but she would always be a little soft-hearted towards children of this age. Whether he can be extraordinary in the future depends not only on his good fortune, but also on whether there is someone capable to train him, the old man said faintly. I just took a look. This child's strength is very low. It has probably been buried for a long time. Bai Yan's lips curled up into a faint smile. After Nangong Chen was born, his mother had died. He was often bullied and had no one to cultivate him. Even if he was a proud man, he would be buried. Are you trying to snatch him from me? Bai Yan raised her eyes and stared at the old man who was standing with his hands behind his back. Even though he has pride, I don't have that much experience to groom a child. Right now, I only care about my young master. Miss Bai Yan, if anything happens to my young master, it will be difficult for you to escape responsibility. Just as the old man finished speaking, under Xiaomi's lead, Bai Zhanpeng, who was wearing a long robe, walked over quickly. His steps were swift, and he no longer looked as weak as he did before. "Young master." The old man was overjoyed and quickly walked up to him. He looked a little shocked. "Is your Qian all right?" "Yes." Bai Zhanpeng nodded slightly. "The remaining Genkai in my body has been removed." This good news smashed into the old man's heart, smashing him until he was confused. Only then did he believe that Bai Yan really wanted to save the young master. "Miss Bai Yan." The old man turned his head and gave a deep bow. "I apologize for my rudeness earlier and thank you for saving my young master. If it wasn't for you, young master would have." Chapter 201. 201 She is a 5th grade pill apothecary. As he spoke, the old man's eyes were filled with tears. How many years had it been? For the sake of young master's illness, the medicine order had given everything they had, but they still couldn't cure him. Now that Bai Yan had saved the young master, she was the benefactor of the entire medicine order. "However, may I ask, what method did you use to make your little cat dispel the true qi?" The old man's eyes lit up. "All these years, we've thought of many ways, but none of them worked. This one. Bai Yan's expression was a little awkward. "Unspeakable." The old man was stunned. This answer was beyond her expectations. If Bai Yan was not willing to say it, she could have just rejected it directly. Why did she say it was unspeakable? "Young master," he turned around and looked at Bai Zhanpeng. Bai Zhanpeng's expression was a little blank. "I'm not sure. After I entered that room, I fainted. When I woke up, I found that the true qi in my body had been broken." Bai Yan's expression became even more embarrassed. If Bai Zhanpeng were to order Xiaomi to suck out its true energy in a clear-headed state, then Bai Zhanpeng would definitely refuse. That was why she had given Xiaomi a look back then, to have Xiaomi knock him out. "I see." The old man was a little disappointed. It seemed that Bai Yan was not willing to let them know the method to get rid of true energy, which was why the young master had fainted. However, it didn't matter. As long as young master could recover, it was enough. "I have a pill formula here." Bai Yan took out a pill formula from her lapels and handed it to the old man. "Go and buy all the medicinal herbs on this pill formula for me. This is a Kazaya. A pill that can help your young master recover." The old man was shocked and immediately spread out the pill recipe. He glanced at it and frowned. There were countless alchemists in medicine sect and he was a 5th grade alchemist himself. However, he had never even heard of the elixir in this elixir recipe. "Miss Bai Yan, what kind of medicinal pill are you refining?" "A 5th grade life force reappearance pill." The vitality regeneration pill was a pill that she had refined based on the biochemical regeneration pill. The rebirth pill was only effective for a situation like Master Ian's. Now that Bai Zhanpeng's physical condition was extremely serious, a level 4 rebirth pill was no longer of any use. Only the vitality regeneration pill could save him. A 5th ranked pill. Compared to this pill that he had never heard of, what shocked the old man even more was that this little girl in front of him was actually a 5th grade alchemist. Don't look at the fact that he himself had broken through to level 5. That was because he was already over 50 years old. This girl was only in her early 20s, right? A 5th grade alchemist in his early 20s, what was he doing? Bai Yan was non-committal. A single vitality regeneration pill is still unable to completely restore Bai Zhanpeng's body. Therefore, prepare 10 sets of these medicinal herbs. 10 sets of medicinal herbs should be able to refine 100 medicinal pills. It should be enough for you to use until your body recuperates. The old man's palm trembled, and his breathing became more rapid. "Miss Bai Yan, you can refine 10 pills in one cauldron?" Bai Yan frowned. "At least 10. Just in case, I'll have you prepare a little more. Is there a problem? What? And at least 10? What if there were more? The old man's lips trembled, unable to say a word. To be honest, during the few years that Bai Yan had stayed on the sacred island, she had very little contact with alchemists. She also did not know what the standard of the alchemists on this continent was. There shouldn't be many who were as bad as her masters, right? Chapter 202. 202 Do you think I'm dead? Therefore, in her opinion, it was very common for a 5th-grade alchemist to refine 10 pills in one furnace. The old man wanted to cry. Under good circumstances, he could at most get 4. If things didn't go well, he wouldn't even get 2. It was really infuriating to compare. If there's nothing else, go and prepare the medicinal herbs. When you're done, come to the house and find me. Bai Yan lazily stretched her waist. Seeing that it was already getting late, she planned to go down and rest. However, just at this moment, a loud noise came from next door. It seemed to be little Fatty Wang's house next door? Chen Er's companion. She thought for a moment and quickly walked to the next room. Old Gu. Looking in the direction in which Bai Yan had left, the corners of Bai Zanpeng's lips curled up as a smile appeared. In this world, there really is a sky beyond the sky and a person beyond the person. I reckon that even if all the geniuses in the entire medicine order were added up, they would not be able to compare to Miss Bai Yan alone. Old man Gu was very ashamed. He had not come out for a long time and did not know that the geniuses of today had become so abnormal. Young master, at that time, when I went to inquire about Miss Bai Yan's situation, it was said that the Bai family wanted to sell her to an old man to be his concubine for a 3rd-grade medicinal pill. I wonder if the Bai family would regret it to death if they knew of Miss Bai Yan's strength. Bai Zhanpeng was caressing the pill formula in his hand. When he heard old man Gu's words, his fingers paused, and his gentle eyes gradually lost their warmth. The Bai family. He coldly said, continue to investigate. I want to know everything Miss Bai Yan has experienced in the Bai family. Yes, young master. The Wang family. Wang Deqiu was reading a book in the study when a shrill cry suddenly came from outside. He was so shocked that he immediately flew out and rushed into the front yard. In the courtyard, Wang Little Fatty's hands and feet were being grabbed by a group of guards as he howled like a pig being slaughtered. In front of him, a little tyrant who was even fatter than him was raising his head arrogantly, commanding the guards to capture little Fatty Wang in an overbearing manner. Wang Xiaotong was already stunned. After a while, he let out an earth-shattering cry and rushed towards Wang Xiaopeng, who was being held up. He wanted to pull away the hands that were holding him. The little tyrant pushed Wang Xiaotong away and said fiercely, "If you come any closer, I'll have you captured as well and make you my bed-warming servant girl." When Wang Deqiu, who had just run out, heard this, he almost fainted from anger. Someone actually dared to make his daughter a servant? Did he really think that he, Wang Deqiu, was so easy to bully after leaving the main family? Father! When Wang Little Fatty saw Wang Deqiu, it was as if he had seen his savior. He cried with tears and snot all over his face, "Save me, father! Little bastard, let go of my son!" Wang Deqiu's eyes were bloodshot as he raised his staff and swung it at the guard who was holding on to Wang Little Fatty. The few guards each took a hit, and the pain was so intense that their bones were about to fall apart. Their arms loosened, and little Fatty Wang, who was in their hands, fell to the ground. "Father!" Wang Little Fatty crawled to Wang Deqiu's side and cried out, "This group of people is too much. Not only are they bullying the weak, but they are also bullying the weak with their numbers. Help me teach them a lesson." "Get lost!" Wang Deqiu pushed little Fatty Wang to the back and waved his long stick angrily. With one hit, he sent a guard flying. "My son! Only I can beat him up? How dare you hit my son? I'm going to kill you all today." Chapter 203. 203 Chapter 196 Business. The little tyrant was so scared that he even forgot to cry. He could only watch as the guards he had brought were thrown to the ground by Wang Deqiu's rod. My Qian saw Wang Deqiu's gaze. The little tyrant didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. He said with a trembling voice, "My father is the Crown Prince Qian. I don't care if your father is the Crown Prince or the Emperor. If he can't teach his son a lesson, I'll do it for him." Wang Deqiu's foot landed on the little tyrant's chest. Did this group of people really think that he, Wang Deqiu, was a dead man? He even came to the Wang family to beat his son? He was really audacious. If he didn't teach them a lesson, he wouldn't be called Wang Deqiu. The little tyrant burst into tears. My father said that when I was born, all the beasts would pay their respects to their ancestors. I am the most respected person in the world. If you treat me like this, my father will definitely cut you into pieces and feed you to the dogs. Wang Deqiu laughed coldly, picked up the little tyrant from the ground, and gave him 2 slaps. If you cry again, I'll feed you to the demonic beasts. The little tyrant's entire body trembled. As expected, he was so scared that he didn't dare to cry anymore. His chubby face was filled with fear as he looked at Wang Deqiu in front of him. What do you mean by 10,000 beasts greeting their ancestors? The people from the 10,000 beasts greeting clan can control 10,000 beasts. If you have the ability, go find a demonic beast and tame it for me to see. And you're using the 10,000 beasts greeting the ancestors to scare me? Did you scare me since I was young? These people were really too foolish. They believed a rumor without a doubt. 10,000 beasts greeting their ancestors? Why didn't he find a bunch of demonic beasts to follow him? Get lost. Wang Deqiu threw the little tyrant away, and his sharp eyes swept over the group of guards who had fallen to the ground. The guard was so frightened that he trembled and immediately got up. He picked up little tyrant and quickly left this place of trouble. At this moment, outside the Wang family's main door, Bai Yan's body was half leaning with her hands crossed over her chest. The corners of her lips were curled up into a faint arc. Seeing that the Wang family didn't need her help, she turned around and wanted to go home. This young lady here. Suddenly, a voice came from behind her, causing Bai Yan's body to stop and her footsteps to stop. She turned her head and saw Wang Deqiu, who was walking quickly towards her from behind. She raised the corner of her lips. Is there something? Young lady, you must be Bai Xiaoqin's mother, right? Wang Deqiu was all smiles and was very cunning. The gaze he looked at Bai Yan with was like he was looking at a piece of fat meat. Bai Yan subconsciously took 2 steps back. You know me? Haha, little Chen has said long ago that his mother is the most beautiful woman in the world. I saw you come out from next door just now, so I guessed it immediately. Wang Deqiu laughed out loud and pulled little fatty Wang over. Hurry up and call for help. Nice to meet you, beautiful aunt, little fatty Wang chuckled. The tears at the corner of Wang Xiaotong's eyes had long dried up. She walked over and followed little fatty Wang as she called out obediently, Aunt. She was Bai Xiaoqin's mother. As expected, she was so beautiful. She was the most beautiful woman she had ever seen, Yingluo. I only came out to take a look. If there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Bai Yan glanced at little fatty Wang and his sister, her gaze softening. If you have time, you can come to my house to play with Chen Er. He really likes you. Little fatty Wang's eyes lit up. He had never been to the next room before. It was always Chen Er who came to find him. Remember to be obedient when you go to your beautiful aunt's house. Don't make trouble, understand? Wang Deqiu smacked little fatty Wang's head, not forgetting to warn him. Chapter 204. 204 A Business Deal, 2. After he threw down these words, he then looked at Bai Yan with a smile. May I ask for your name? Bai Yan. Mrs. Surname is Bai? Did little Chen take your surname? Wang Deqiu was a little surprised. It was not under normal circumstances. Bai Xiaochen should have taken his father's surname. Why did he take his mother's surname? Seeing Wang Deqiu's stunned expression, Bai Yan raised the corners of her lips. Is there anything else? It's like this. Previously, I found out from Bai Xiaochen that you have some medicinal pills in your hands, right? Can you sell it to me? Any amount is fine. Wang Deqiu's eyes were shining like a hungry wolf staring at delicious food. Bai Yan muttered to herself for a moment. Rank 3 and above are enough. Good. I can provide you with pills that are above level 3 and below level 5, including level 5 pills. As for the price, I will have my people come and discuss it with you in detail. Wang Deqiu's heart contracted for a moment. He had originally only wanted Bai Yan to provide 3rd to 4th grade medicinal pills. He did not expect that there would even be 5th grade medicinal pills. It was a huge surprise. Price and all that can be discussed. Then when can Miss Bai Yan provide me with the medicinal pills? I can provide you with 100 3rd and 4th ranked pills every month. You'll have to provide the ingredients for the 5th ranked pills yourself. Also, I will only refine them once a month. How many pills I can refine at one time will depend on luck. Wang Deqiu's eyes brightened even more. She made it herself? In other words, Bai Xiaoqin's mother was a 5th grade alchemist. All right, you decide on the price of your pills. You can find someone to negotiate with me on the price. I will definitely not let you suffer a loss. In any case, it was not his money that was being spent. It was what his family needed. No matter how high the price Bai Yan offered, he would be able to accept it. Bai Yan did not say anything more and walked into the next room. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared from the Wang family father and son's sight. Wang Little Fatty looked at his father in confusion. You're such a greedy person, why would you be so forthright? What nonsense are you spouting? Wang Deqiu glared at him. Didn't Bai Xiaochen give you some pills some time ago? I'll get someone to send one back to your grandfather, and after the appraisal of our clan's alchemist, the medicinal effects of the medicinal pill that Bai Xiaochen gave you far exceeds that of other similar medicinal pills. So, I couldn't bear to sell those pills. I gave them all to your grandfather as a token of my respect. Your grandfather said that he would buy as many pills as you had. Wang Deqiu's lips curved into a smug smile. He felt that he would have to rely on these pills to return to his family. Little Fatty Wang pouted. So it's not your own money. No wonder you're so forthright. His father was always a cunning businessman. When he talked business with others, he would always lower the price. This was the first time he had been so generous. Wang Deqiu glared at Little Fatty Wang. Is that how you talk about your father? In any case, you won't be the one to inherit the family in the future. Since that's the case, it doesn't matter how much money we spend. Moreover, this family's assets are all left to that cousin of yours. It's better to let Miss Bai Yan earn a sum. This was his main goal. This time, they were forced to leave the main family, and it was also because of his younger brother and nephew. If he didn't scam them, how could he be satisfied? Will Grandpa agree to it? Little Fatty Wang scratched his head. Hee, Wang Deqiu smiled slyly. I've already told your grandfather that the reason why this alchemist can refine pills of such high quality is because he has spent too much time and experience. Therefore, pills like Kazaya are in short supply. Chapter 205. 205 The young when are you? 1. At that time, he would also have the capital to speak. Kid, you have to learn these business skills properly. Even if you can't inherit the main family in the future, you won't be cheated to death by others. Wang Deqiu was exasperated. If this brat was half as smart as Bai Xiaochen, he wouldn't have to worry about him. Little Fatty Wang said perfunctorily. Then, he saw that Wang Deqiu wanted to beat him up again, so he ran away before he could do anything. When he left, he didn't forget to turn around and make a face. Wang Deqiu was so angry that he rolled up his sleeves and chased after him. "You brat, stop right there." In the hall, Bai Yan gently sipped a mouthful of tea and waited quietly. After a while, Hua Luo quickly walked in from the door and half knelt on the ground. "Why did master call this subordinate? I've struck a deal with the Wang family next door. Get Mother Chu to negotiate with them." "Yes, master, yes," Hua Luo said respectfully. Bai Yan put down the teacup in her hand and asked indifferently, "How's the training of the alchemists?" In this continent, strength was important, but alchemy was even more important. As long as you were a powerful alchemist, even if you had no cultivation, there would always be strong people to protect you. Therefore, starting from 3 years ago, Bai Yan had been secretly training a group of alchemists. However, in these 3 years, she had not had the time to go and see, so she naturally did not know how the training of these alchemists was going. "Master, within 3 years, all the alchemists have reached the 2nd grade and above. There are a total of 30 3rd grade alchemists and 9 4th grade alchemists. What about rank 5? Bai Yan asked with a frown. "Other than Wen Ryu, no one else has reached rank 5 in this Baiyan. Wen Ryu was also someone Bai Yan knew 3 years ago. At that time, Wen Ryu had long become famous at a young age and was arrogant and conceited. Because the two of them had taken a fancy to the same treasure at the same time, he had suggested an alchemist competition. Wen Ryu was defeated and the consequence of her failure was to be loyal to Bai Yan. It's within reason that no one has broken through rank 5, but there are too few people who have reached rank 4. Out of 200 geniuses with pill refining talent, only 9 of them have broken through to the 4th grade. Bai Yan's expression was a little ugly as she slowly stood up from the chair. Hua Luo carefully looked at Bai Yan. Of the 9 4th grade alchemists, 5 of them were already 3rd grade. In other words, they had only broken through 1 level in these 3 years. "Hua Luo, take me to see the alchemists." She couldn't continue like this. She had to find a way to help them break through as soon as possible. In the smoky courtyard, there was a group of alchemy furnaces. In front of each alchemy furnace, there was a person who was wholeheartedly refining the pills in front of him. Bai Yan had just walked into the courtyard when a figure quickly pounced towards her. After seeing the person who had flashed over, she did not hesitate to raise her foot and stagger. He kicked it out with a thump. That person rolled a few times on the ground and fell with his 4 limbs facing the sky. His fair and handsome face was full of resentment as he looked at Bai Yan pitifully. "Yingluo, why do I feel like you're even stronger than 3 years ago? Tell me, what realm have you broken through to now? Why am I suddenly unable to see through you?" 3 years ago, he was defeated by this woman in alchemy. Unwillingly, he wanted to compete in martial arts. He had been beaten up miserably. However, at that time, he was still able to see through Bai Yan's strength. But now, he realized that no matter how he looked at her, the woman in front of him was just a white fog, making it impossible for others to see through her. Chapter 206. 206 The Young Wen Ryu, 2. I heard that under your guidance, only 9 of the alchemists I found reached the 4th grade. Bai Yan raised the corners of her lips and asked with a smile that was not a smile. Wen Ryu did a carp flip and got up from the ground. He looked at Bai Yan with resentment. 3 years ago, you left this group of people to me and went missing. I've been waiting for you here for 3 years. Now that you're back, don't you want to say something to me first? Bai Yan smiled. For some reason, this smile made Wen Ryu feel gloomy and she subconsciously took 2 steps back. Bai, listen to my explanation first. I've really helped you take care of people well. It's just that alchemy is very difficult to learn, and geniuses like you and I are very rare. Most people can't reach the 4th grade in their entire lives. When Ryu also felt very aggrieved. To a pervert like Bai Yan, her requirements must be very high, but he had also tried his best. Moreover, if it was so easy to break through to the 4th grade, wouldn't there be an overflow of alchemists on the continent? First, take me to see that group of alchemists. Bai Yan shrugged her shoulders, her expression somewhat helpless. All right. When Ryu looked at Bai Yan curiously. Oh right, Great White, why isn't Little White with you this time? Aren't you and your mother inseparable? Bai Yan's footsteps paused and she glanced at When Ryu coldly. If you don't speak, no one will think you're mute. After saying this, Bai Yan no longer paid any attention to him and strode into the courtyard. Back then, it was also Bai Yan who had asked Hua Luo to choose from this group of people. Therefore, this was the first time she was standing among so many people. Those people instantly sized her up with curious gazes. Let's not talk about the 4th grade alchemist for now, you can ask the 3rd grade alchemist to refine the pills for me to see. Bai Yan indifferently instructed. In her previous life, she was the successor of an ancient martial arts family in Huaxia. Her alchemy skills had reached the peak, so many people had come to ask her to be their master. Those disciples were all very intelligent and understood everything with just a little hint. Therefore, after she had guided a few masters on the Holy Island, she had actually been driven mad several times. She had never seen such a stupid person. However, when she saw this group of alchemists in front of her, she finally realized what true stupidity was. In comparison, his masters were much better. At the same time, this discovery enlightened her. So it wasn't that her master was stupid, but that the alchemy skills of this world were far behind that of the ancient martial arts world of Huaxia. I've already roughly figured out the problems of these alchemists. Bai Yan's lips curled up slightly. Later on, I will write down the methods to solve these problems and let them try to refine pills according to the contents I have written. Also, find a group of alchemists and provide me with 100 3rd grade and 4th grade pills each month. What do you need so many pills for? When Ryu was stunned. Bai Yan curled her lips. Bai, are you in need of money? When Ryu's fair and handsome face was flushed. If you need money, I can give it to you. When Ryu? Bai Yan turned her head to look at When Ryu. What motive do you have? This one. When Ryu lowered her head shyly. I just wanted to ask if you need someone to warm your bed. I can warm your bed for free, and I'll even pay you. Bai Yan gently stroked her chin and sized up the handsome and fair young man in front of her with a slightly interested gaze. Hua Luo, do you need people in your Phoenix house? Hua Luo looked at When Ryu sympathetically. Phoenix house has always been short of people. If such a beautiful man like young Master Wen were to come to Phoenix house, he would definitely attract many guests. Chapter 207 207 Little Tyrant Wants to Tame a Beast, 1. The corner of Wen Ryu's mouth twitched a few times and she quickly took a few steps back. I was just joking, really just joking, Yingluo. What a joke. What kind of place was the Phoenix house? This woman was so cruel that she wanted him to receive guests at Phoenix house. Bai Yan's smile was very gentle. Don't worry. If you have any needs, Phoenix house will definitely accept you. If you want to be a prostitute, I will ask Mother Chu to charge you less money. When Ryu's expression was very embarrassed. When she saw Hua Luo's gaze turn over, she suddenly glared at her. Only then did she look at Bai Yan and said aggrievedly, Bai, I'm still an innocent young man. Aren't you going too far by treating me like this? Bai Yan could not be bothered to say anything more. She casually took out a book and threw it to When Ryu. When Ryu caught the book that Bai Yan handed over and was stunned for a moment before saying, What is this? You have just broken through to the 5th realm not long ago, so you don't know much about 5th realm alchemy. After you have familiarized yourself with this book, you will be able to firmly grasp the method of refining fifth realm pills, and improve your success rate. Wen Ryu was so excited that she almost dropped the book in her hand. Fortunately, he caught it in time. When did you become so good to me? Wen Ryu tightly hugged the book in her arms as if she was hugging her own child, her face flushed with excitement. Bai Yan smiled sweetly. Your strength is strong enough. That's why you can help me take care of this group of people. Hualuo, let's go. She was about to turn around after saying this, but she stopped after taking a few steps. Wenru, if you want to find me, you can go to the Lan family in the Imperial City and find Lan Xiaoun. She knows where I live. With that, she said no more and walked out of the courtyard. A charming smile appeared on Hualuo's face. Her master always had a tough mouth but a soft heart. Don't look at how she always bullied Wen Ryu. In fact, she had already written this book and planned to give it to Wen Ryu for Suanji. With the precious book in her hands, Wen Ryu did not go to send Bai Yan off and hurriedly returned to her room, planning to read the book. His heart became excited as he flipped through the book. The question that had been bothering him for a long time had finally been answered. At this moment, a howl came from the Crown Prince's residence, causing the entire residence to shake. Bairuo's injuries had yet to recover. Enduring the pain, she was helped out by the maidservants. With a glance, he saw little tyrant being chased by a wild wolf. On the continent, other than demonic beasts, there were also ordinary wild beasts. Demonic beasts were proud and difficult to tame, so this wild wolf was only an ordinary wild beast. This was something that Nangongyi had captured when he went to the hunting ground previously. Due to its savage nature, it had been kept in a cage and was planning to slaughter and eat it one day. Who knew that it would actually be released by the little tyrant? Imperial Mother, save me. Little tyrant's voice was very miserable, causing Bai Ruo's heart to almost shatter. Hurry, hurry, and save the imperial grandson. Bai Ruo's face was deathly pale as she immediately ordered the guards behind her. A guard took out a bow and arrow, aimed it at the wild wolf pouncing towards little tyrant, and with a shiu sound, shot the sword over, and it just happened to pierce through the wild wolf's eye. The wild wolf howled in pain and covered its eyes as it spun around. At the same time, little tyrant finally got rid of the wild wolf and ran to Bai Ruo's side. Lin why did you release your father's wild wolf? When she thought of the scene just now, Bai Ruo felt that her heart was about to jump out as she asked with a pale face. Chapter 208 208 The little tyrant wants to tame a beast, too. Mother, they said that I'm not the one that the beasts are worshipping. If it's someone from the beast worship, they must have the ability to tame beasts. I want to tame this beast to prove that I'm the strongest person in the world. Hearing the little tyrant's aggrieved voice, Bairuo's eyes turned cold. Who said that you weren't the one the 10,000 beasts were worshipping? It's Yingluo, Bai Xiaochen Yingluo. His little friend's father ran. However, before he could say these last few words, Bairuo mistakenly thought that the person who said those words was Bai Xiaochen, and a ruthless glint flashed in her eyes. After a long time, she finally calmed the anger in her heart. She lowered her eyes and stared at the little tyrant in her arms, and the corners of her mouth curled up into a gentle smile. Lin you have to remember that you are the most respected person in this world. Bai Xiaochen is jealous that you have obtained the worship of tens of thousands of beasts. That's why he deliberately said this. The little tyrant's eyes were filled with tears as he raised his head to look at Bai Ruo. Imperial Mother, why didn't that wild wolf listen to me? It's just an ordinary wild wolf without any intelligence. How can it be used to identify the 10,000 beasts greeting the ancestors? Moreover, a wild wolf of this level is not qualified to submit to you. You're the one who's going to rule all the demonic beasts in the world. Only a true demonic beast will know your identity. But Bai Xiaochen had clearly told many foxes to listen to him. No buts. Ruo immediately interrupted little tyrant's words, and her expression became serious. Lin Er, no matter if it's Nangong Sun or Bai Xiao Chen, they will have to rely on your existence in the future. If we find a chance, we'll definitely crush them to pieces. What was Bai Xiao Chen? How dare he compare himself to her son? He did not even have the right to drink Lin Er's foot-washing water. Consort mother, I understand now. The little tyrant's originally depressed mood became jubilant once he heard these words. I will definitely not let Bai Xiaochen and Nangong Sun off. Also, I have taken a fancy to a little girl today. When the time comes, can I snatch her over to be my bed-warming servant girl? That little fatty dared to hit him, so he would snatch his sister to be his bed-warming servant. Sure, Bai Ruo smiled, in the future, this world will be yours. Then the little girl that you've taken a fancy to should also belong to you. You tell Imperial Mother about that family and Imperial Mother will find someone to buy that little girl. The little tyrant's squinted eyes suddenly lit up. Imperial Mother, I don't just want that little girl. I also want her brother. I want her brother to be my slave. All right, I'll do as you say. In this imperial city, right now, she did not dare to provoke Dikang and Bai Yan. As for the others, how many of them could disobey the orders of the imperial family? She was just a little girl. If she really couldn't do it, she could just take out 2 third-grade medicinal pills. How could he reject her? At this moment, a palace maid hurriedly walked over and bowed. Reporting to the crown princess, someone has come to visit. Who is it? Bai Ruo's brows furrowed. She said it's the people of the Zither Valley, Jianxia. Zither Valley. The corner of Bai Ruo's mouth curled up. The people of the Zither Valley had finally come. Quickly invite her to the living room, I'll be there in a moment. Yes, Crown Princess. The palace maid accepted the order and retreated, disappearing from Bai Ruo's sight. Bai Ruo ordered for little tyrant to be taken away to rest. Then, with the support of 2 palace maids, she walked towards the main hall with great difficulty. As soon as she entered the hall, Bai Ruo saw a woman sitting in the hall drinking tea. She was wearing a light blue dress that was as gentle as water. Her face was beautiful, her eyebrows were like distant mountains, her lips were red, and her small face was so white that light could pass through. Chapter 209 209 Mukinga, 1. It was truly a peerless and moving painting. Bai Ruo believed that if Dikang knew that such a perfect woman loved him, as a man, he would definitely not be indifferent. Even the crown prince, who loved her so deeply, had several concubines in his room. Dikang, that kind of ruthless and heartless person, would definitely not only pamper one person. You must be the valley master of the Kinyan Valley. At this thought, Bai Ruo regained her senses and slowly walked towards Mukinga, who was sitting in the hall. Perhaps she was enduring the pain in her body, but her smile looked very forced. Mukinga put down the teacup in her hand, a faint smile appearing on her red lips. I heard that you know where he is. Bai Ruo nodded her head, a cold glint flashing through her eyes. His name is Dikang, he is the prince of our Luhuo kingdom. I wonder what is the reason Valley Master is looking for him. Mukinga smiled faintly. Anyone who has seen this man will probably never forget him. Unfortunately, I just happened to see him a few months ago. At that time, she was chasing a demonic beast with several elders of the Zither Valley and was about to take it down. The demonic godlike man descended from the sky. He was dressed in purple and had a head full of silver hair. From this moment on, he had been etched in her heart, and she would never forget him. However, the man seemed to not notice her existence and directly took away the demonic beast she was chasing. There was no news of him after that. That devilish figure appeared in Mukinga's mind again, and the curve of her lips carried a touch of gentleness. Miss Bai, since you've told me about him, I'll definitely repay you. Don't forget to come and drink on my wedding day with him. Byruo was stunned. She looked at Mukinga's beautiful face and opened her mouth a few times, but in the end, she did not say anything. Mukinga naturally noticed her dilemma and frowned slightly. Any other questions? Valley Master, Byruo sighed, you're late. Not long ago, my missing sister returned. What does your sister's return have to do with him? Mukinga's brows furrowed. Of course it's related. Byruo's eyes were filled with deep pain. My sister has been restless since she was young. When she was in Bai Manor, she hooked up with the guards and even pestered the crown prince for many years. She saw that the crown prince ignored her, went around seducing men, and even got pregnant before marriage. Mukinga opened her mouth in surprise, and a trace of disgust flashed across her beautiful eyes. Unmarried, you still have such an unwomanly sister. Moreover, Yingluo, don't tell me you're going to say that he's pregnant with Dikang's child. Definitely not. Byruo solemnly vowed, I've personally seen her collude with others and the child she's carrying is also someone else's child. However, ever since she met Prince Kang, she has shamelessly pestered him. Originally, Prince Kang was indifferent to her, but in the end. She carefully looked at Mukinga. In the end, she used some unknown method to make Prince Kang mistakenly think that she had given birth to his son. Mukinga's expression darkened. Even if what you said is true, if you want the Azure Emperor to misunderstand, it must be because the two of them had sex. Don't tell me there's something between her and the Azure Emperor? Valley Master, I dare to guarantee that the child is definitely not Prince Kang's. Byruo slightly lowered her eyes as a sinister glint flashed across her eyes. Back then, Prince Kang was drugged and found a woman to detoxify the poison. That woman was not my elder sister Bai Yan, but my younger sister Byruo. Chapter 210. 210 Mukinga, 2. At that time, Byruo had also told my sister about this matter who knew that she would impersonate him. In the end, Prince Kang believed her without a doubt and even urged him to cripple my father under her bewitchment. When Byruo raised her head, her eyes were already filled with tears and her expression was pitiful. Initially, when she heard that Dikang had been drugged and had no choice but to find a woman to detoxify himself, Mukinga's heart was filled with unhappiness. However, when she realized that this was not Dikang's original intention, the unhappiness in her heart disappeared. As long as the man belonged to her in the future, she could let bygones be bygones. I already understand the details of the matter. Tell me where that woman Bai Yan is. This Valley Master will go and find that woman now. Mukinga's expression was very ugly. She slowly stood up with a sneer on her lips, and her eyes were gradually filled with murderous intent. All right, I'll get someone to bring the Valley Master over. The corners of Byruo's lips curled up. She did not tell Mukinga about the Phoenix house. Otherwise, Mukinga would definitely not have gone to look for Bai Yan so readily. No need, just tell me where she is. Mukinga laughed coldly. A disgrace of getting pregnant before marriage actually dared to seduce the person she had her eyes on. Byruo was silent for a moment, and a light flashed in her eyes. I don't know exactly where Bai Yan is staying. You can go and look for the Lan family. If something happens to the Lan family, she will definitely appear. In reality, ever since Bai Zhenxiang discovered that Bai Yan was related to Phoenix House, he had told Byruo where Bai Yan was currently staying. However, Byruo did not plan to let Mukinga immediately face Bai Yan. She knew that Bai Yan was most concerned about the Lan family. If something happened to the Lan family, it would definitely trigger her anger. Mukinga did not say anything more. She slowly turned around and walked out of the Crown Prince's residence. The moment she stepped out of the residence, a woman in green descended from the sky and stood respectfully behind Mukinga. Valley Master, I don't think Byruo's words can be trusted. Do you need me to verify it? The corners of Mukinga's lips lifted. Dikang is the man that this valley master has taken a fancy to. It's a fact that she's the cheap servant who seduced Dikang. No matter what the reason is, I will never forgive her. She was just a cheap servant. There were countless of such servants in the Gukhan Valley, so she didn't care about her. Let's go to the Lan family. This valley master will first meet with that lowly servant. Yes, valley master. The Lan family's mansion. When they heard that Bai Xiaochen had arrived, old Madam Lan, old Master Lan, and a group of people quickly came out to welcome him. The old madam even pulled Bai Xiaochen into her embrace. My good great-grandson, you haven't come to see great-grandma for a few days. I've missed you so much. Bai Xiaochen was hugged until he could not breathe, but he also could not bear to push old madam away and allowed her to hold him tightly in her arms. In the end, it was the old man who couldn't stand it anymore. He coughed twice and glared at the old lady. You want the child to suffocate to death. Only then did old madam realize that Bai Xiaoqin's small face was red. She hurriedly let go of him, and her face was full of guilt. Child, why didn't you say that you were feeling uncomfortable? Bai Xiaoqin's appearance was very obedient. Great-grandma is like this because she misses Chen Er. Chen Er can't be happier. His sensibility made the old madam's heart ache. Such an obedient child. She really didn't know why those cruel and unscrupulous people in the Bai family wanted to sell him out before. Chapter 211. 211 Almost Exposed, 1. Great-grandma, grand-uncle, you've become much younger. Bai Xiaochen blinked his eyes and said. Really? Dongruolin's eyes lit up as she stood beside the old madam. She gently stroked her cheek and said with a smile, recently, some madams have also praised me for becoming younger and younger. This is all thanks to Yan Er's pills. Not to mention Dongruolin, even the old madam had become a dozen years younger, and the wrinkles on her face had faded. Grand-aunt, if you think it's useful, remember to promote it to my mother. Bai Xiaoqin's large eyes had a cunning glint. How could he give up such a good opportunity to earn money? Okay, don't worry. I'll definitely help Yan Er publicize it. It just so happens that those ladies also asked me what I took to become so young. Dongruolin touched her face, feeling very happy. She had suddenly become so young, and it really made those older sisters envious. Great-grandmother, great-grandfather, Chen Er is here to look for Yun Er's aunt. Bai Xiaochen had just said this when Lan Xiaoun, who was holding a plate of snacks, slowly walked out. You're looking for me. She blinked her eyes. The first person this little guy came to look for was actually her. When did she become so charming? The more Lan Xiaoun thought about it, the happier she became. The smile on her face also grew wider. Little Chen Er, do you miss Anta? When Anta gives birth to a little sister, Chen Er will definitely think of you every day. Bai Xiaoqin's eyes had a fox-like cunning glint. Mother didn't want to give birth to a younger sister, but Anta could. They were family anyway, and he would definitely like the younger cousin that Anta gave birth to. Lan Xiaoun's face froze for a moment. This little fellow was really rubbing it in. She had been forced to marry him a few days ago, but now he was calling her sister. My two elder brothers are not married yet. Why should I get married? I'm not doing it. Whoever wants to have children can have them. When Lan Xiaoun saw her mother's gaze, she immediately pouted and refused. Chen Er, the old madam, coughed dryly and turned her kind gaze towards Bai Xiaochen. Why did you come to look for your aunt? Oh, that's right. Bai Xiaochen then recalled the reason for his visit. It was my mother who asked me to inform Anta that the foxes that she prepared for you have all arrived. When are you free to go over and pick one? Fox. Lan Xiaoun's eyes lit up. Elder cousin's sister is really planning to give me a demonic beast? And a fox at that. She felt that her heart was about to jump out of her chest, and her face was flushed with excitement. She no longer hesitated and said anxiously, "I'm free right now. Chen let's go to your house now." Bai Xiaochen gave an adorable smile. He was just about to turn around when the path in front of him was suddenly blocked by a figure. It was a woman in an aqua blue dress. She was extremely beautiful, and her long black hair danced in the gentle breeze. She was so beautiful that she looked like an extremely moving ink wash painting. Master Lan was stunned. He looked at the woman who walked into the Lan family and frowned. "Who are you?" Mukinga's expression was calm as she glanced at Master Lan. Her clear eyes concealed her sword-like aura. "I'm looking for Bai Yan. Ask her to come and see me." Her red lips opened slightly, and her voice was indifferent. Her beautiful face was expressionless, but when she saw the little person in front of her, a trace of disgust flashed in her eyes. Even she didn't know why, but even though it was the first time she saw this child, and he was so beautiful and obedient, she just hated him for no reason. Chapter 212. 212 Almost Exposed, 2. Just as the Lan family members were still wondering why this woman wanted to look for Bai Yan, they suddenly saw her gaze directed at Bai Xiaochen, and their expressions changed greatly. "Little Chen Lan Xiaoyun's face turned pale with fright. She hurriedly pulled Bai Xiaochen behind her and looked warily at this woman who had come with ill intentions. "Auntie, you don't have to worry about me." Bai Xiaochen patted Lan Xiaoyun's back like a little adult before turning his big eyes to Mukinga. "Why are you looking for my mother? You are Bai Yan's son?" Mukinga sneered. No wonder she hated him so much. It turned out that he was the illegitimate child that Bai Yan had given birth to before marriage. Old Master Lan gave Dongruolan a look. As Lan Yu and his son were not present, he could only instruct Dongruolan. Dongruolan understood tacitly and nodded at Master Lan before retreating. "Miss," the old master turned his gaze to Mukinga and said indifferently, "if you're here as a guest, the Lan family will welcome you with open arms. If you're here with ill intentions, I'm afraid the Lan family can't entertain you." This time, before Mukinga could say anything, the lady in green behind her stood out and chided sternly, "Who do you think you are to talk to, my valley master? Get Bai Yan to come out." If they had been guessing Mukinga's intentions from the start, they could immediately tell that she had ill intentions after hearing what the lady in green said. This granny. When Bai Xiaochen saw the green-robed lady berating the old master, his cute little face was filled with anger. "Did your parents not teach you to respect the old and love the young?" Chen Er's mother told Chen Er from a young age that one must treat the elderly well. "Aren't you ashamed of bullying an elderly?" A hint of anger flashed in the eyes of the green-robed lady. Her figure flashed and appeared in front of Bai Xiaochen. She raised her hand and was about to slap Bai Xiaoqin's small face. "Chen be careful." Lan Xiaoyun pulled Bai Xiaochen into her arms and used her back to face the green-robed lady's palm. Bai Xiaoqin's gaze became colder and colder. He stared at the hand that was about to land, and his clean and clear large eyes were stained with a red glow. At this moment, no one noticed that the corners of Bai Xiaoqin's clothes were already fluttering without any wind. His eyes no longer had the initial innocence and naivete. Instead, it was replaced with a bloodthirsty beast-like look. However, what broke all this was a meow. Xiaomi instantly pounced on the green-clothed woman's body, causing her to stagger and almost fall to the ground. Its sharp claws also scratched her cheek and blood instantly flowed down. "Xiaomi." Seeing Xiaomi's appearance, Bai Xiaochen immediately left Lan Xiaoyun's embrace and ran over to Xiaomi. When he ran to Xiaomi's side, he asked in a small voice, "What are you doing here?" "Master is afraid that you will cause trouble and told me to follow you." Xiaomi lowered its voice. "Furthermore, didn't Master say that you must not make a move outside? Otherwise, your identity as a demonic beast will be exposed sooner or later." Bai Xiaochen could not be considered a complete demonic beast. He was only half human, half beast, but his talent was much stronger than the average demonic beast, and he could even transform into human form at the age of a month. And if news of a demonic beast that could transform into a human were to spread, there would definitely be many people on the continent who would want to come and snatch it away. Bai Xiaochen lowered his head and said in a weak voice, "I just saw that Anta wanted to block her palm for me and almost couldn't control Yingluo." Fortunately, Xiaomi had come in time. Otherwise, he would definitely have been exposed. Chapter 213. 213 Bai Yan has come, 1. I've already informed Master. She'll be back soon. Don't do it again later. Xiaomi helplessly sighed. It seemed that it still couldn't leave its little master in the future, or else it would be easy for things to go wrong. Demonic beast. At this moment, Mukinga looked at Xiaomi in surprise and frowned slightly. I didn't expect you to have a demonic beast swan ni. However, no matter how strong it is, it can't fight against our Zither Valley. Zither Valley. Master Ian's face darkened. Was this woman from the Gukan Valley? When did Yan Er offend this Gukan Valley? Miss, you keep saying that you want to see my granddaughter, but you didn't even give me a reason. You still want me to inform Yan Er to see her? Mukinga's gaze was indifferent, and the corners of her mouth held a hint of a cold smile. I only heard that Bai Yan is Dikang's woman? As such, I only came to take a look out of curiosity. This sentence of hers made everyone have a feeling of sudden realization. So it was another woman who admired Dikang, Huan. Xiaomi, that bad egg of a father of mine really knows how to attract peach blossoms. One look and I can tell that he's another person who holds a grudge against mother because he can't get her. Bai Xiaokan's face was pink and his pair of large eyes were exceptionally bright. So, for the sake of mother's safety in the future, I need to consider whether I should acknowledge this father, Weavua. Poor Dikang. It was because of this reason that his road to pursuing his wife became even longer, but he didn't even know who Mukinga was. A cold glint streaked across Mukinga's eyes, and she looked straight at Bai Xiaochen with her cold eyes. Is this how your mother raised you? If that's the case, I don't mind teaching you manners and morality. Was she holding a grudge in her heart because she could not get Dikang? What a joke, she just couldn't bear to see women pestering him. Meow, she said. Xiaomi licked its claws and glanced lazily at Mukinga, its eyes clearly filled with disdain. Seeing that Mukinga's expression was getting colder and colder, and seeing that Dongrulan had yet to return, Master Ian's eyes unconsciously became anxious and he hurriedly gave the old madam a look. The old madam understood what he meant and quickly walked to Bai Xiaokan's side. She pulled Bai Xiaochen into her arms and comforted him continuously, afraid that he would be frightened by Mukinga. She hugged Bai Xiaochen with heartache while looking at Mukinga. Before you came to look for my granddaughter, did you ask about her identity? My granddaughter is the master of the Phoenix House, and the owner of the Phoenix House is her subordinate. Your Gukan Valley and the Phoenix House are both third-rate sects, so it's hard to say who will win if they really fight. Mukinga's eyes narrowed, and the aura on her body dissipated a lot. A cold glint flashed across her beautiful eyes, and she laughed coldly. Hualuo? She's just a prostitute, I won't put her in my eyes. However, it was unforgivable for Qian and Bai Ruo to hide this from her. Hee, the green-clothed woman sarcastically laughed. She wiped her face that had been scratched by Xiaomi and her eyes were filled with mockery. You actually compared the Phoenix House to our Gukan Sound Valley. The women of the Gukan Valley are all beautiful and refined, and we value our chastity very much. How can the Phoenix House, which is just a place for entertainment, be compared with a fairyland like the Gukan Valley? In other words, the women in the Phoenix House were all promiscuous women, and the people of the Gukan Sound Valley were all fairies. Even if the world had to choose, they would definitely choose the Zither Valley. Xiaomi, scratch her. Chapter 214. 214 Bai Yan came, 2. Just as Bai Xiaoqin's words fell, Xiaomi immediately jumped up and pounced towards the green-robed lady. Its sharp claws slashed down with a shua sound, and in an instant, the other half of the green-robed lady's face was disfigured. Ah! She shrieked and threw a punch at Xiao Mi. However, Xiaomi nimbly dodged it before steadily landing on the ground. It licked its blood-stained nails and looked at the woman in green with a mocking gaze. I'm going to kill you. The lady in green's eyes were bloodshot. Just as she was about to teach the kitten a lesson, Mukinga's slender arm reached out and stopped her. Bixie, stop. Mukinga's face darkened as she stared coldly at the little white cat on the ground, whose eyes were filled with provocation. I was wrong before and underestimated this demonic beast. From the looks of it now, this demonic beast's strength is at heaven rank, right? Bai Shi's strength was at the low level of the heaven rank, and this little white cat could hurt her time and time again, so its strength must also be at the heaven rank. Perhaps, it was a mid-grade heaven rank demonic beast. At this moment, Mukinga did not notice the disdain that flashed across the other party's eyes when she said that Xiaomi was a heaven rank demonic beast. Heaven rank. Master Lan and the others were shocked. They looked at the harmless little white cat on the ground in astonishment. This gluttonous little fellow was actually a heaven-rank demonic beast. I won't allow you to speak ill of Aunt Hua. Bai Xiaoqin's small face was filled with anger. Aunt Hua is much better than you bunch of sanctimonious, bad women. This time, Mukinga did not say anything. She frowned slightly and stared at the little person in front of her, a cold light flickering in her beautiful eyes. Right at this moment, Bai Xiaoqin's eyes suddenly lit up, and his young and tender voice rang out in surprise. After Mukinga heard this, she turned around subconsciously, and her gaze fell on the woman who was walking in from outside the door. In an instant, her breathing stopped. The woman's red dress was devastatingly beautiful, and her stunning appearance made everyone pale in comparison. Before this, Mukinga had been very confident in her looks. Otherwise, she would not have arrogantly thought that she could become Dikang's wife. However, after seeing this woman, she finally understood what it meant to be truly stunning. After the initial shock, she was filled with jealousy. Her jealousy was like a worm gnawing at her heart, making her heart ache. There was no need to think to know that Bai Yan must have relied on this face to hook up with Dikang. Perhaps, there was already skin-to-skin contact between the two of them. The moment she thought of the scene of Dikang and this woman having sex in bed, her heart found it very difficult to accept. You are Bai Yan? Mukinga heaved a sigh of relief and said expressionlessly. No matter how many waves of emotions she felt in her heart, her beautiful face did not show any of it. Maternal grandfather, maternal grandmother, what happened? Bai Yan walked past Mukinga. Her gaze did not stop on the other party. Instead, she slowly walked to old Master Lan. Master Lan heaved a sigh of relief. Why did you come alone? I just asked Ruolan to seek help from Prince Kang. Did he not come with you? Bai Yan frowned. I didn't see Aunt. Dikang is also not around because of something. However, regardless of whether Dikang is here or not, there will not be a second ending. Cousin. When Lan Xiaoun saw Bai Yan's appearance, she was so aggrieved that she was about to cry. Chapter 215. 215 Bai Yan came, 3. This woman wanted to hit little Chen Er just now. Bai Yan's expression darkened. Hit her son. She would like to see who had the guts to touch her son. Oh, by the way, Lan Xiaoun added, this woman also took a fancy to your man. She was probably rejected by your man, so she came to find trouble. Was it another peach blossom debt that Dikang caused? The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up slightly and her gaze finally landed on Mukinga. Which hand did you use to hit my son? It's not her. It's the maidservant beside her who wanted to slap little Chen Er. When Lan Xiaoun saw that Bai Yan, this reinforcement, had arrived, She immediately stopped panicking and stopped patting her chest. She used her right hand. Mukinga's face turned cold. Just as she was about to scold Lan Xiaoyun, she saw that the woman who had been standing in front of Lan Xiaoyun had suddenly disappeared. By the time she regained her senses, she suddenly realized that Bai Yan was already standing in front of Bai Shi. She instantly pulled out the sword hanging on her waist and slashed down from the sky. The cold sword light reflected on her face, making her look as if she was covered in frost. Following a heart-wrenching cry, a pillar of blood spurted out from Bai Shi's body. A broken arm rolled down, and the bright red blood seeped into the ground. You should be glad that you didn't use both hands. Otherwise, Yingluo, your other arm would also be crippled. This sudden action of hers caused everyone to be stunned. Lan Xiaoyun subconsciously wanted to reach out to cover Bai Xiaoqin's eyes, but she was blocked by Bai Xiaoqian. Ande, you don't have to worry about me. When I was wandering with my mother, I saw a human being eaten by a demonic beast with my own eyes, so this kind of scene is nothing to me. Before they were accepted into the Holy Land, they had been wandering outside for a year. However, Bai Xiaoqian grew up very quickly and could remember things in just a few months. To him, it was not that he could not accept this situation. When Lan Xiaoyun heard this, her heart ached and she almost cried. He was such a good child. How could the Bai family bear to force her cousin to wander around with Chen Er for so long? Impudent, Mukinga's expression changed and she said angrily, Bai Yan, do you know what you're doing? If you let Dikang understand what kind of heart the woman he accepted has, do you think Zhen Zhen will forgive you? Bai Yan laughed coldly, what does it have to do with me whether he forgives me or not? If he blames me for cutting off an arm, then you'll have to ask me if I can forgive him. She had her own pride and dignity, and her dignity was to never yield to a man. You're just being quick with your words. Mukinga laughed sarcastically. You spent so much time seducing him. How could you not care? So, why don't you dare to admit that you're afraid of losing him? Bai Yan was stunned. She had spent a lot of time to hook up with Dikang, and was afraid of losing him. In the ruins of Prince Kang's residence, an armored guard stood on top of the ruins, arrogantly looking down at the extremely slow craftsman. Slow down, all of you better slow down. This is the order of the Azure Emperor. When the time comes, don't blame me for not reminding you. In the future, all of you can forget about staying in Luhuo Kingdom. Just as the guard finished speaking, he suddenly saw a beautiful woman in gorgeous clothes rush over. Chapter 216. 216 Bai Yan came, 4. Perhaps it was because she had run all the way here, but her fair skin was covered in sweat and she was panting. Where is the Azure Emperor? Dongrulan ran for 2 steps before stopping when she could no longer run. She placed her hands on her thighs and panted continuously. The guard was taken aback and hesitated. His Royal Highness has an urgent matter to attend to. I don't know where he is to assist Madame Lan. Why don't you go to Miss Bai's mansion and wait for him? His Royal Highness will be staying there for the next few days. Dongrulan smiled bitterly and shook her head. I just came from there. Do you have any way to contact the High Heavens monarch? That woman obviously came with ill intentions and her strength wasn't low. At this time, she would definitely ask Dikang for help. Based on Dikang's care for Yan Er, it was impossible for him to ignore it. Madame Lan, please wait a moment. I will send a message to His Highness. Seeing Dongrulan's anxious appearance, the guard did not dare to hesitate any longer. He took out a communication bomb and ignited it in the sky. In an instant, the entire sky was dyed red. Outside the imperial city, in a forest, Huo Yu stood quietly behind Dikang. She looked at the man with a cautious gaze. Your Majesty, this subordinate followed the aura left behind by the princess to this place, but I have already lost track of the princess. The man pursed his lips, and his devilish face had an unreadable expression. Did you find out where that snake woman went? His voice was gloomy, causing Flame Feather to lower her head. I'm useless, I can't find out for the time being. After he said this, Huoyu clearly felt that his master's aura was becoming more and more oppressive, so much so that he even found it difficult to breathe. After a long while, the heavy breath was retracted, and the man's slightly cold voice came from in front of him. Continue the investigation. Yes, my king. Huoyu finally heaved a sigh of relief. The king's aura was too terrifying. In this world, only the future queen could subdue Wang Qianqian. Just at this moment, Dikang's aura turned cold once again, giving off a sinister feeling. The messenger bomb that this king left behind has been detonated. A messenger bomb used a person's true energy as a catalyst to transmit it into the messenger bomb. Once the messenger bomb was detonated, the person who left behind the true energy would be able to sense it no matter where he was. However, he had also said that only matters related to Bai Yan could detonate the communication bomb. During normal times, there was definitely no one who dared to detonate his communication bomb. King, could it be the queen? Huoyu raised her head, a hint of sympathy in her eyes. Looks like someone's going to be out of luck again, Yingluo. You continue to look for her whereabouts. After throwing out these words, Dikang's purple-robed silver-haired figure suddenly disappeared in front of Huoyu. Looking in the direction that Dikang had left, Huoyu's body also gradually changed. After a while, he turned into a huge firebird and suddenly disappeared in the forest. At this moment, in the Lan family's courtyard, Bai Yan looked at Mukinga, who was in front of her, and the corners of her lips curled up into a faint smile. Since you've already decided, I'm too lazy to say anything more. Why don't you tell me your purpose for coming here? Mukinga's cold eyes flickered. At first, I only wanted to have a competition with you. Whoever loses will leave as your emperor. But you just attacked my people from the Gukan Valley. I can't let you live. Bai Yan crossed her arms and the smile on her face grew even wider. You. These two words were extremely arrogant, and Mukinga's expression turned uglier. Chapter 217. 217 This prince will only dote on her eye. 2 years ago, I already knew that Hualuo had acknowledged someone as her master, but I couldn't find out anything about you even after I tried my best. Mukinga's emotion slowly changed, and a cold smile appeared on her lips. I didn't expect that person, Wan, to be you. And I also know that you are an alchemist. It's understandable for a prostitute like Hualuo to recognize you as her master for some medicinal pills, but do you think you can go against me with just Hualuo? Mukinga's expression was indifferent, but her tone was very arrogant. Her indifferent eyes stared coldly at Bai Yan, as if she was looking at a dead person. Didn't I say that I wanted to borrow the power of the flower? Bai Yan crossed her arms in front of her chest and smiled sweetly. Her smile was like a thorn that pierced Mukinga's body. Her beautiful face instantly darkened. A mere grain of rice actually dares to compete with the sun and moon for brilliance. Bai Yan, you think too highly of yourself. Mukinga laughed coldly and pulled out her long sword in an instant. I gave you a few chances just now, but you didn't cherish them. Don't blame me for not being polite. The moment her voice fell, a beautiful figure swept towards Bai Yan like the wind. Her sword was very fast and the long sword in her hand was like a dragon flying and a phoenix dancing. Under this blade, no one could hide. I'm finished. Just as old Master Lan and the others were feeling nervous, Bai Zioken's voice suddenly rang out from the side. Perhaps it was because of this sentence that the old madam's face turned pale. She reached out her trembling hand and couldn't help but lean back. Hurry, and save my precious granddaughter. Fortunately, old Master Lan was quick to react and immediately supported old Madam Lan. He hurriedly said to Lan Xiaoun, who was already stunned, Yun Er, you look after your grandmother. I'll go help Yan Er. Lan Xiaoun snapped back to her senses and immediately took the old madam from old Master Ian's hands. She bit her lips tightly and looked worriedly at Bai Yan, who was already fighting with Mukinga. And when he handed old madam over to Lan Xiaoun, old Master Lan was about to step forward. But at this moment, Bai Xiaoqin's innocent voice rang out once more. "Great-grandfather, what are you doing?" Master Lan clenched his fists tightly, but he didn't stop walking. He said without turning his head, "Of course I'm helping your mother. No one has ever dared to kill my granddaughter in my territory." Bai Xiaoqian blinked and tilted his head, feeling conflicted. "My mother doesn't like it when she has someone to help her in battle." Master Ian's footsteps paused, and his face was filled with determination. "You said that your mother is finished. How can I sit by and do nothing? I don't care what rules she has when she fights, I only know that I can't just watch her get into trouble." The moment these words fell, Bai Xiaoqian was stunned. A look of surprise flashed past his young and cute little face. "But Suanji, Chen Er, didn't say that mother is finished. I said that Suanji, that bad woman, is finished. Wasn't this bad woman courting death? She dared to provoke her mother and even said that her mother was a grain of rice and could not compete with her, the sun and the moon." Master Ian's footsteps came to a complete stop. He raised his old face in shock and turned his gaze back to the battle in front of him. Bai Yan deftly grabbed the long sword in Mukinga's hand. With a sudden force in her palm, the blade shattered into pieces in her palm and scattered under the blue sky. Mukinga was stunned. This long sword was made of black iron, but since when did black iron become so useless? Chapter 218. 218 This prince will only dote on her, too. She gritted her teeth and instantly raised her palm. A zither appeared in her hand. As the zither music flowed, a beautiful and sharp piece of music flowed out from her fingertips. The moment the music was played, the trees withered and the fallen leaves turned yellow. Qin, seeing Mukinga take out the zither, a smile appeared on Bai Yan's face. "Unfortunately, my Chen Er's godfather is best at the zither and flute. I once learned a little from him. Although I can't say that I'm proficient in it, I can let you understand what a real zither is." Originally, when she saw that the zither music had no effect on Bai Yan, Mukinga was already dumbfounded. However, before she could react, the zither in front of her was snatched away by a hand and placed horizontally on Bai Yan's thigh. "You!" Mukinga's expression changed drastically, and she was just about to snatch the zither back. Suddenly, a piece of music was played from the lady's fingertips. The music was melodious and moving, so beautiful that even Mukinga forgot to react. She stared blankly at the lady in the red dress under the light breeze. This woman, how was she just beautiful? It was probably one of a kind even in the heavens and earth. At this moment, the zither music suddenly changed. It was as sharp as 10,000 invisible swords that instantly pierced through Mukinga's body. She spurted out a mouthful of blood and was forced back a few steps by the sound of the zither. Her face was pale. "How is it possible that you're a coward? How can you be a monarch?" On this continent, a monarch level could rule an entire country, and a monarch level was an existence that far surpassed all of them. Once a monarch level expert appeared, the force led by this expert could be successfully promoted to a mid-tier sect, which was only second to secluded sects like the medicine section. Of course, it didn't mean that the strongest in a mid-tier sect was only at the monarch level. It was just that the monarch level was the standard for the establishment of a mid-tier sect. With such a master, the Phoenix House could be directly promoted from a second-class sect to a middle-class sect. Mukinga chuckled, and her smile was self-deprecating. "I originally thought that you used alchemy to subdue Hualuo, but I didn't expect that you used your own strength." "That's right, if you don't have enough power, how could you make a prostitute like Hualuo work for you?" Bai Yan indifferently glanced at Mukinga. "You're wrong. When I subdued Hualuo, my strength wasn't even at the king level. Above the king level was the monarch level. And the sect leaders of these secondary sects must also be at the king level. However, Bai Yan said that she was not even at the king level. Then why did Hualuo pledge her loyalty to her? Mukinga raised her head, her face full of shock. Hualuo reached the king rank many years ago, and you became her master only a few years ago. How could she be loyal to you? Is it really because you are an alchemist? You're wrong again. When I subdued Hualuo, she didn't know that I knew alchemy. Bai Yan looked at Mukinga's dumbfounded expression and her lips curled up slightly. Why? If she didn't rely on her alchemy skills and strength, how could Hualuo submit to her? Bai Yan smiled. That's because I saved Hualuo's life. The reason was simple. She saved Hualuo, so Hualuo handed his life to her. That's impossible. Hualuo is a promiscuous woman. People like her only care about profits and benefits. Mukinga slowly got up from the ground and shook her head in disbelief. So what if the Phoenix House is a place for romance? Hualuo has never received a guest on her own before. Furthermore, Phoenix House has never forced anyone and has never done anything that is against the heavens and reason. Bai Yan's smile gradually turned cold. As for you people from the Zither Valley who claim to be celestial maidens, what kind of shady business have you been doing? Chapter 219. 219 She's the only one I'll dote on. 3. Mukinga's face turned paler and paler. At least we, the Gukan Valley, don't trade our bodies, she said. Both the Gukan Valley and the Phoenix House had more women, so they were often compared with each other. However, the Phoenix House was often disdained by them. Every time the Gukan Valley was mentioned, who didn't praise it? The women of the Gukan Valley were all proud and unyielding. How could the Phoenix House compare with them? You don't want to use your body to trade. Why don't you ask me to cripple you and let you help Hualuo receive customers? There was a hint of a smile in Bai Yan's eyes. Mukinga was so beautiful, and with her identity as the Valley Master of the Zither Valley, he could definitely make a lot of money by using her to receive guests. No. Mukinga took 2 steps back and her face turned even paler. Bai Yan, aren't you afraid that once Dikang finds out about these things, he'll see your true colors and stay away from you? Just as she said this, a slightly cold voice suddenly rang out, causing Bai Yan's face to immediately sink. What can't this prince know? This voice made Mukinga's delicate body tremble. She slowly turned around, and at that moment, a godlike figure appeared in her eyes. A smile hung on the man's exquisite face. His pair of phoenix eyes were slightly tilted, and they were endlessly devilish and evil. His red lips were like blood, and just a slight arc was breathtakingly beautiful. After a few months, she was stunned to see the man who had reminded her of her countless dreams. She felt her heart beating so fast that it almost jumped out of her chest. She couldn't take her eyes off the man. The man walked past her and did not even leave a glance behind as he walked towards Bai Yan. Who's the one who's blind and made you angry? Bai Yan threw down the zither in her hand and picked up Dikang's lapels, coldly saying, "Your rotten peach came to find trouble with the Lan family. If I hadn't rushed over quickly and caused the Lan family to be in danger, I would definitely not have let you off." Dikang swept a glance at the lapels that Bai Yan was holding in her hands. He was not angry and the corners of his lips curled up into a smile. "How do you plan on not letting me go?" "On the bed." This man, 2 out of 3 sentences can't leave the bed. Bai Yan eased the pent-up anger in her heart and glared at Dikang. "I'll take your son and run so that you won't be able to find us." Dikang's expression immediately darkened and his entire person was covered in dark clouds. Old Master Lan and the others had just recovered from the shock from before and were frightened by Dikang's sinister aura again. They hurriedly gave Bai Yan a look. "Yan I think the Azure Emperor is innocent in this matter. He is very sincere towards you, you should talk to him nicely, don't get angry." Bai Yan was silent and did not say a word. She looked straight at the man in front of her, her black eyes deep. Bai Yan, you're really arrogant because you're pampered. Mukinga also sensed Dikang's anger and sneered. You don't know how to cherish such a good man like Dikang. If it were me, I would definitely not let him be angry. As soon as she finished speaking, the man in front suddenly raised his hand, and a white light swept over so quickly that Mukinga could not react. Then, there was a dull sound. As Mukinga's beautiful eyes widened, the white light approached her and blasted on her chest. In an instant, her body shot out like an arrow from a bow and she fell to the ground in a sorry state. Chapter 220. 220 This prince will only dote on her. 4. Dikang, you're stunned. She raised her pale face and stared at the man's domineering back in astonishment. She couldn't even say a complete sentence. The man's silver hair fluttered in the breeze. His phoenix eyes were slightly raised, and a domineering light returned in his eyes. The Zither Valley will no longer exist. With one sentence, he had ended the life and death of the Gukan Valley. Mukinga coughed out a mouthful of blood, her pale face full of shock. Why? The corners of Dikang's lips rose and a cold smile once again hung on the corner of the wall. You almost caused this king's wife to run away with this king's son, and you still dare to ask this king why? Mukinga's body trembled, and she climbed up from the ground in a sorry state. Do you really believe that she gave birth to your son? Could it be that you've done a blood test? This king can't even recognize his own son? Blood identification? Do you think this king is too stupid, or are you the stupid one? Dikang sneered again and again, killing intent gradually appearing in his phoenix eyes. At this moment, Mukinga's heart seemed to be torn apart, and she was in so much pain that she was bleeding. Don't you know that she's a vicious woman? The Phoenix House is a place of pleasure, and she actually wants to cripple me and sell me to the Phoenix House. How can such a vicious woman be qualified to be your wife? No matter how poisonous she is, she has this prince to pamper her. Moreover, Lauai, Dikang sneered. This prince feels that Xiao Yan Er's method is not bad. Why don't I cripple you and send you to Phoenix House to receive guests? What did you say? Mukinga's delicate body trembled. He wanted to send her to Phoenix House to receive guests? How could this man be so cruel? A ray of white light pierced Mukinga's heart ruthlessly, and her dantian was crushed under the white light. The moment her dantian shattered, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was as pale as a ghost. I never thought that the man I've been looking for so long would be so heartless. Unfortunately, she had found the wrong person and loved the wrong person. How could such a man be worthy of her heart? However, the moment she thought of how she had protected Bai Yan, jealousy was like claws ruthlessly scratching at her heart, making her feel extremely uncomfortable. Send her to the Phoenix House. Dikang retracted his hand and coldly ordered. A guard walked out from the dark and respectfully cupped his fists. Yes, Your Highness. Then, he dragged Mukinga and ruthlessly turned her towards the door. Dikang did not take another look at Mukinga as he flicked his sleeves, turned around, and strode towards Bai Yan. Looking at Dikang's ugly expression, Bai Yan took 2 steps back and laughed awkwardly. What else is there? You really want to take my son away? Dikang's face was gloomy. I'm just joking. This king doesn't like this kind of joke. Dikang pushed Bai Yan's body against the tree as if there was no one else around and bit her lips ruthlessly. If there's a next time, we'll meet directly in bed. Bai Yan's expression darkened. This is a public place. Can you be more careful? You're afraid now, let's see if you still dare to threaten this king next time. Dikang narrowed his phoenix eyes and pressed down on Bai Yan's body threateningly as he said fiercely. Cough, cough. Old Master Lan coughed awkwardly and hurriedly gave Lan Xiaoun a look. What are you still standing there for? Your grandma is in shock. Help her to rest. I'm going to have tea with my old friend. The old madam was indeed in shock, and it had never stopped. First, Bai Xiaoqin's over made her think that Bai Yan was not as good as Mukinga, and she was so scared that she almost fainted. Chapter 221. 221 She is the only one I dote on. 5. Next. The strength that Bai Yan had erupted with shocked her even more. Monarch level. What kind of strength was that? Even Lu Huo Kingdom's #1 expert was only at king level. It was a long way from monarch level. But this granddaughter of hers had actually reached the monarch level in just a few years. How could she not be shocked? Who knew that before she could even recover from this shock, she was frightened by Dikang's sinister aura again, he. Therefore, even now, the legs of the old madam, who had been repeatedly frightened, were soft. She needed Lan Xiaoyun's support to stand firm. This prince will be going out for a few days. Dikang ignored the Lan family members who had already walked far away and said in a low voice, "If something happens to you, someone will inform this prince." Bai Yan was stunned and subconsciously asked, "When are you coming back?" She regretted it the moment she asked this question and wanted to slap herself. What was she asking? It was as if she couldn't wait for him to return. When Dikang saw Bai Yan's embarrassed expression, the corners of his lips curled up. This prince is going to find someone. If I can't find her, Qian estimates that she's outside and will count the money for me if she's sold. Bai Yan pursed her lips and did not say anything. You're not going to ask me who I'm looking for? Dikang's voice sank a little. Bai Yan turned her head. Related to me? As if he did not hear her words, Dikang continued, I'll go find Chen Er's aunt. Chen Er's aunt? Wouldn't she be Dikang's younger sister? Bai Yan was startled and turned to look at Dikang. Do you need my help? There's no need. Perhaps it was because of Bai Yan's words that made Dikang's mood very happy as his expression eased. I have my own way of finding her. Hearing the conversation between the two, Bai Xiaochen ran over from the side and blinked his big, adorable eyes. Chen Er has an aunt other than his uncle? Would little aunt like Chen Er? She dares to not like it? Dikang let out a domineering sneer. If she dares to not like you, this king will immediately tie her up and hang her up to beat her. In a valley not far away, a young girl suddenly sneezed. She rubbed her nose, feeling that someone was calling her a coward behind her back. It's all the state preceptor's fault. He didn't tell me where Brother Wang was, so I had to go through so much trouble to find him. The young girl pouted and said with a sad face, I don't know if my brother Wang has settled sister-in-law. She really wanted to see her cute little nephew. If the state preceptor had told her where her little nephew was, she might have been able to see him now. The more the young girl thought about it, the angrier she became. She fiercely used her fork to stab the fish in the water, fantasizing in her mind that these fish were all the hateful state preceptor Suanji. In the Lan family's courtyard, Dikang wrapped his arm around Bai Yan's waist and planted a kiss on her lips. This kiss was different from the domineering one in the past and was full of gentleness. This king will be back soon. After saying this, he let go of the woman in his arms and finally rubbed Bai Xiaoqin's head. Then, he slowly turned around and walked out of the Lan family's main gate. Mother, did you really want to take Chen Er away just now? Bai Xiaochen looked in the direction his father had left in and looked at Bai Yan innocently. The corners of Bai Yan's mouth stiffened and she sighed. In this matter, Dikang is also innocent. He can't make anyone dislike him, so I've never blamed Wufu. Then why did mother say those words? Bai Xiaochen bit his finger and asked, not understanding what was going on. Actually, I just wanted to see his attitude, Yingluo. What's the attitude of that bad daddy? Bai Xiaoqin's large eyes were bright and innocent as he looked at Bai Yan without blinking. Bai Yan curled her lips into a faint smile and said, not bad, Yingluo. Chapter 222. 222 Will you like him in the future? Not bad. Bai Xiaoqian tilted his small head in puzzlement, his eyes as bright as the stars in the night sky. Mother, have you accepted bad father? Bai Yan was stunned and shook her head. Will mother like him in the future? Ran, don't know. Bai Yan was silent for a moment before she slowly raised her beautiful face and stared at the blue sky. The corners of her lips curled up into an arc. Who can predict the future? Let's go back first. Oh. Bai Xiaoqian jogged over to Bai Yan's side in a few steps and reached out his small hand to hold Bai Yan's hand. It was only after he had left the Lan family that he realized that he had come here to take his Anta to choose a spirit beast, but he had actually forgotten about it. Bai Xiaoqian's little expression was very conflicted, and his cute little face was all scrunched up. Mother, I want to go back to the Lan family again. After saying this, Bai Xiaoqian broke free from Bai Yan's hand and turned around to walk towards the Lan family. Bai Yan also did not stop him. After Bai Xiaoqian left, she then turned around and walked in the direction of the Lan family. The Canyon Valley was as famous as the Phoenix House, and its reputation was even better than the Phoenix House. But overnight, the news of the destruction of the Zither Valley swept through like a storm, catching Bai Ruo, who was waiting for good news, by surprise. How did this happen? She immediately got up from the bed and accidentally pulled on the wound on her back. She gasped in pain. Lu Yu, is this news reliable? The palace maid named Lu Yu replied respectfully, Crown Prince Consort, this matter has already spread throughout the entire Lu Huo kingdom. Even the valley master of the Gukan Sound Valley has been sent to the Phoenix House to sell her body. Now, many men are rushing to the Phoenix House just to see the valley master of the Gukan Sound Valley. Bai Ruo's face was deathly pale. She tightly clenched her fists and gently closed her eyes. After a long time, she opened them. I understand Lu Yu, you may leave. Lu Yu bowed and retreated. After Lu Yu left, Bai Ruo quietly stayed in her room in a daze. Perhaps this news was too shocking, so shocking that Wan didn't want to believe it. Why did Bai Yan have such courage? Was she not afraid that Dikang would blame her? Could it be that she really thought that just because Dikang doted on her, she could do whatever she wanted? She thought for a long time before she forced herself to get up. A cold smile appeared on her gentle and beautiful face. Men, prepare the sedan, Bangong wants to leave the palace. She was going to verify this news herself. Although the Bai family was in trouble, Bai Ruo was still the imperial family's crown princess. Her noble status was still there. Therefore, when the group of people on the street saw the crown princess's sedan chair approaching, they all dispersed to the side. In just a moment, Bai Ruo's palanquin had already arrived outside the Phoenix House. She walked down with the help of the palace maid and walked into the Phoenix House with difficulty. At this moment, there were countless guests in Phoenix House. Countless men's faces were flushed with excitement, and some even cheered excitedly. Following the gazes of that group of people, Bai Ruo saw the stunning woman tied to a pillar at a glance. This woman no longer had the arrogance of a goddess. Her eyes were full of regret and deep pain, and her delicate body was trembling. Just this one glance made Bai Ruo collapse. Crown Princess. When the palace maids saw Bai Ruo's trembling body, they hurriedly supported her and called out worriedly. Bai Yan's courage is really big. However, she has caused such a huge commotion, why hasn't Dikang come out yet? Chapter 223 223 Bai Ruo's jealousy. Bai Ruo placed her hand on the palace maid's wrist and asked in a trembling voice. The conversation between the male customer beside him and the others just solved his doubts. The Zither Valley's valley master seems to be very noble, but I didn't expect her to be such a cheap woman. However, for the sake of her beauty, I'm willing to pay for her first time. Oh? What do you mean? You still don't know? Mukinga had taken a fancy to Prince Kang, but Prince Kang's heart already belonged to someone else. She loved him but could not get him, so she went to find trouble with Bai Yan and the Lan family. Who knew that he would anger Prince Kang and directly throw Mukinga into the Phoenix house? The man paused and laughed. Coincidentally, I was here that day. I was also the one who saw Prince Kang's guards throw Mukinga down. Even the destruction of the Kanyan Valley was Prince Kang's doing. It seems that this Prince Kang is truly loyal. For Miss Bai, he even rejected the beautiful Zither Valley's Valley Master. Tisk, you can't say that. Even though the Zither Music Valley's Valley Master is beautiful, there is still a gap between her and Bai Yan. If I were a man, I would also choose Bai Yan. However, this Valley Master would not be too bad to be a concubine, hoo. Bai Ruo's body almost fell down, but fortunately, the palace maid behind her firmly supported her, allowing her to stabilize her body. Crown Princess Suanji. The palace maid's voice was filled with concern. I'm fine, let's go back. Bai Ruo slightly closed her eyes and slowly opened them again. She raised her hand to push away the palace maid's hand and slowly walked out of Phoenix House. However, at this moment, her legs were trembling, and her pale face was as white as a sheet. The crown prince loved her so much, but he would still marry a concubine. Moreover, as long as it was a man, he would feel more tender towards a beauty. Why was Dikang able to reject such a temptation for Bai Yan? Why did such a man have to be Bai Yan's? Bai Ruo's heart trembled. She took a few deep breaths and couldn't hold back the bitterness and jealousy in her heart. This time, perhaps to ease her mood, she didn't sit in the palanquin. Instead, she wandered aimlessly on the streets. Perhaps it was because her heart was hidden, she didn't look at the person in front of her when she walked, and she bumped into the young girl in front of her. Bang! For some reason, the young girl was very strong. Under this blow, she instantly took a few steps back and fell to the ground. The wound on her back tore open and blood flowed continuously, causing Bai Ruo to frown in pain. Crown Princess. The palace maids turned pale with fright and quickly went forward to help the crown princess up. The speed of the guards was also very fast, and in an instant, they had surrounded the impetuous girl. Audacious, you actually dare to collide with the crown prince consort, you're tired of living. When Diziaoun saw that she had accidentally bumped into someone, she wanted to apologize, but she was scolded by these guards. Her temper rose, and she raised her little chin arrogantly and snorted. She didn't watch where she was walking, so who's to blame for me bumping into her? Impudent. The guard's face sank. Just as he was about to make a move, Bai Ruo's voice came from behind. Hold on. Bai Ruo slowly crawled up from the ground, her beautiful eyes staring straight at the token tied to the young girl's waist. A light flashed in her eyes. This token is quite good looking, I wonder if I can take a look? What are you doing? Diziaoun immediately protected the token, his expression like a hen protecting its chicks. Chapter 224. 224 Where's my brother? The corners of Bai Ruo's mouth lifted into a smile. I just happened to see an identical token plate, so I asked out of curiosity. Please don't take offense, miss. She had indeed met him by chance. Dikang was such a beautiful man that any woman would inevitably be moved, even if she was already married. Therefore, in the few years that Dikang had just arrived at Luhuo Kingdom, she would often coincidentally appear at the places that he would pass by and had also seen him take out this token with the word demon engraved on it and hand it to a demon beast. He didn't expect that the token would be in the hands of this young girl. The young girl was stunned and became excited. You've seen a token like this? What about the owner of the token? Where is he? I'm a friend of Yingluo's. I wonder what's your relationship with him? Bai Ruo raised the corner of her lips. Friend? That's impossible, my brother hates women the most. Of course, that was excluding her sister-in-law. The thought of being able to see his sister-in-law and little nephew after finding his brother made Diziaoun's heart feel so happy that his beautiful eyes curved. Looking at Diziaoun's pretty little face, Bai Ruo's lips curved up. No matter how much a man hates women, there will always be something special about him, right? Diziaoun looked at Bai Ruo and shook his head. Over the years, there have been many women who wanted to be my sister-in-law. My brother would get angry even if they got close to him, let alone having female friends. How much of a clean freak was her brother? He didn't even allow them to stand within 100 meters of him. He said that he hated the aura of those demonic beasts in heat. If someone went against his will, no one could stop him from getting angry. From then on, no woman in the demon realm dared to appear within 100 meters of him. I'm telling the truth. Bai Ruo's face sank for a moment before she recovered and continued to speak in a gentle voice. Moreover, I can bring you to see him, Wan. Diziaoun bit his finger. But, when I left home, the state preceptor told me not to trust anyone and not to go with anyone. Why don't you ask me to give you an address and ask my brother to come and find me? If she left with this woman, the state preceptor would definitely be angry. Seeing that this girl was a little stubborn, Bai Ruo's expression was a little ugly. If it wasn't for the fact that she was Dikang's younger sister, she would have long given her a slap. Suddenly, Bai Ruo's eyes brightened. She looked at a familiar figure in front of her and hurriedly shouted, "Ger." When the young girl not far away heard this voice, she was suddenly stunned. When she followed the sound, she saw Bai Ruo standing in front of her. In an instant, Bai Ji's tears were about to fall. Sister. Ever since Bai Ruo was caned, she had not seen her for a long time. Now that she saw Bai Ruo again, she really couldn't help but spit at her and threw herself into her arms. Elder sister, Bai Yan is too detestable. She crippled father and even framed mother for having an affair with someone else. However, father seems to believe her words and frequently beats mother up. What should I do? What was even more detestable was that Bai Yan did not know what kind of bewitching medicine she had given Dikang to make him protect her so much. What? Bai Ruo's expression changed. Father actually hit mother? I'll go back with the crown prince in 2 days. Bai Ji wiped her tears and turned to look at the beautiful young lady behind her. Sister, who is this woman? Bai Ruo's expression changed. She's Dikang's younger sister. I promised her that I would take her to find her brother. However, I have some matters to attend to recently. I'll hand her over to you. Chapter 225. 225 Did anyone seduce my brother? This girl was so difficult to deal with, and she really didn't want to be entangled with her anymore. Moreover, Ger loved Dikang so deeply. Perhaps this was an opportunity. As long as he could settle his sister, would he still be afraid that Dikang would not accept her? The Azure Emperor's younger sister. Bai Ji was stunned, and a glint flashed across her eyes. Sister, are you sure? I'm sure. These 2 words of certainty made Bai Ji's long-dormant heart come alive again. A smile appeared on her face as she said in a friendly manner. Miss Di, you've just arrived here and you might not be familiar with our Luhuo kingdom. How about I treat you to a walk around? I want to see my brother, Diziaoun pouted. Bai Ji had a bright smile on her face. Your brother is not in the imperial city these days. When he comes back, I will inform him to come and see you. All right, I hope you don't lie to me. Diziaoun raised his chin. If I find out that you dare to lie to me, I'll make you regret it for the rest of your lives. Bai Ruo gave Bai Ji a look. I have some matters to attend to in the palace. I'll leave this girl to you. After saying this, she ignored the wound on her back and left in a hurry. Diziaoun did not even look at Bai Ruo and turned to look at Bai Ji. What's your relationship with my brother? The woman just now was obviously a married woman, so she was too lazy to ask. But now, she had to ask. Bai Ji lowered her head shyly, her fingers fidgeting with the corner of her clothes. I'm going to argue with him, what are you doing? Before she could finish her sentence, Bai Ji suddenly saw De Xiaoyun come in front of her, sniffing hard with his little nose. De Xiaoyun retracted his head and touched his little nose. I can smell the scent of someone in heat. Bai Ji's face turned from green to white, and then from white to green again, colorful. This damned woman actually insulted her as a beast? She even said that she was in heat. If she wasn't Dikang's younger sister, she would have beaten her to death just based on this sentence. Miss Di, what are you talking about? How could I possibly be in heat? She laughed awkwardly and explained. De Xiaoyun put his hands on his waist and raised his chin. Then tell me, are there any women who want to seduce my brother here? Bai Ji originally wanted to refuse to answer this question. All of a sudden, Bai Yan's face flashed in her mind and the corners of her lips curled up into a cold smile. Of course there is. My elder sister Bai Yan not only seduced Dikang, but she also got pregnant with another man's child and even caused Dikang to mistakenly think that this child was his. In order to be responsible for the child, Dikang had no choice but to accept that bad woman. The smile at the corner of her lips was very pleased. Now that she had offended Dikang's younger sister, let's see how Bai Yan was going to marry Dikang. However, she didn't get a response from De Xiaoyun for a long time. She looked up subconsciously and saw a surprised face. Do you think Jensen's brother would mistake the child for someone else? De Xiaoyun was shocked. This Wan was impossible. Demonic beasts like them all relied on their smell to smell people. How could their elder brother not even recognize his own child? Bai Ji didn't understand what had happened, but immediately nodded and said, Bai Yan is very calculative. Otherwise, the Kang Emperor would not have made such a low-level mistake. He would not even be willing to do a blood test and insist that the bastard child was his son, Yingluo. After she finished speaking, she suddenly saw a familiar figure in front of her. The little one was small and should have been difficult to find in the crowd, but he had a beautiful little face, like a porcelain doll. He stood out in the crowd. Chapter 226. 226 I am your aunt. Miss Di, that's the child. Bai Ji's eyes lit up and she immediately pointed at Bai Xiaochen and said, he's Bai Yan's bastard child and is also the chess piece that Bai Yan is using to force Dikang. Following the direction Bai Ji was pointing at, De Xiaoyun turned his head, his gaze landing on Bai Xiaochen's cute and innocent little face. Her expression changed from astonishment to shock, and finally to wild joy. Her body was also like a bolt of lightning, and with a whoosh, she rushed towards Bai Xiaochen. Bai Ji didn't see the change in De Xiaoyun's expression. When she saw De Xiaoyun suddenly rushing towards Bai Xiaochen, the corners of her lips curled up into an evil arc. Bai Yan, Bai Xiaochen, you two won't let me have an easy time. Similarly, I won't let you get what you want. He had already exposed their plot in front of Dikang's younger sister. In this way, Bai Yan might not be able to get her wish to marry Dikang. Sister Chu, when will Godfather come? Bai Xiaochen was a little unhappy. He really missed his grandmasters and his godfather, Wufu. I've already written a letter to my brother. If he knows that your father has appeared, he will definitely rush over. Chu Yiyi's eyes were shining. As long as her brother was here, Bai Yan would not be snatched away. Bai Xiaochen hesitated. If his godfather really came, would he fight with his bad daddy? At that time, who would he help? Just as Bai Xiaochen was feeling conflicted in his heart, a strong gust of wind blew over. In the midst of the violent wind, a young girl with messy hair suddenly rushed in front of him, pulled him into her arms, and kissed his little face. Bai Xiaochen was stunned. He was frightened. His eyes were wide open, clearly not knowing what was happening. What are you doing? Chu Yiyi exploded in anger and lifted the young girl who was hugging Bai Xiaochen up. She glared at her angrily. Where did this wild brat come from? How dare you bully my Xiao Chen Er? If it was in the past, De Xiaoyun would have fought with Chu Yi for sure. But now, all of her gaze was on Bai Xiao Chen, and her beautiful eyes were filled with a smile. You're called Little Chen Er? Can I call you that too? Bai Xiao Chen blinked his eyes in astonishment and looked at Chu Yi at a loss. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation and he didn't know what to do either. Just as Chu Yi was about to fly into a rage, the eyes of the young girl in her hands suddenly turned pitiful. Little Chen Er, don't you recognize me? Bai Xiao Chen was completely stunned. Should he know her? This auntie. Bai Xiaoqin's little expression was a little conflicted. You shouldn't have recognized the wrong person, right? I don't know you, Yingluo. De Xiaoyun felt so aggrieved that he wanted to cry. In order to see her cute little nephew, she had gone to great lengths to get information from the state preceptor, and she had also taken advantage of the weak seal to come to this continent. More importantly, how much suffering had she gone through? How much had he suffered? Did she have it easy? In the end, he actually didn't know her. Seeing De Xiaoyun on the verge of tears, Bai Xiaoqin's heart softened. Maybe we've met before. Maybe Chen Er's memory isn't good, so she forgot. Can Auntie give Chen Er a few words of advice? De Xiaoyun's tears immediately turned into a smile. She wiped her tears and said, Little Chen Er, I'm your aunt, how could you forget me? These words were like a bolt of lightning on a clear day, directly smashing Bai Xiao Chen silly. What did he mean by how could he forget her? This was the first time they had met. Chapter 227 227 De Xiaoyun vs Chu Yi, 1. Chu Yi was even more confused than Bai Xiao Chen. She was afraid that someone would do this to her face. At the thought of this, she flew into a rage, and her pretty little face flushed red. What are you talking about? Little Chen Er is not your nephew. He can only be my nephew. Little Chen Er, don't call me big sister anymore. I want you to call me aunt. The last sentence was obviously directed at little Chen Er. After saying that, he couldn't help but look at De Xiaoyun provocatively. When did my brother take in another sister? De Xiaoyun was astonished. At this moment, Bai Xiaoqin's small face had long turned red. He hesitated for a moment before saying, Sister Chu is my godfather's sister, not my bad daddy's. Bad daddy, this form of address is definitely suitable for him. De Xiaoyun broke free from Chu Yi's hand and happily pinched Bai Xiaoqin's face. Your face is exactly the same as my brother's when he was young. As expected, you're my nephew. Moreover, you're so sensible and polite, much better than my brother. She really couldn't believe that such an obedient, sensible, and cute child would be the child of her hateful brother. Chu Yi saw that this young lady had ignored her time and time again and was so angry that her head was about to burst into flames. She took a few steps forward and pulled Bai Xiaochen behind her. What are you doing? De Xiaoyun glared at Chu Yi and said unhappily, Give me back my good nephew. I won't give it to you, what can you do about it? Chu Yi snorted and raised her snow-white face arrogantly. Just by looking at their appearances, Chu Yi and De Xiaoyun were not the same type. Chu Yi was a pretty and cute girl, while De Xiaoyun was a sweet and pretty girl. However, their tempers were surprisingly similar. They were both people who would explode at the slightest provocation. Therefore, when he saw that Chu Yi was trying to snatch his precious nephew away, De Xiaoyun's face was filled with anger. You want to fight? Come on, tell me, are you planning to use a weapon or your bare hands? I can give you 3 moves. At this moment, both of their auras rose from their bodies, and the people around the entire street automatically dispersed, giving them a large open space. Bai Xiaochen was anxious. He looked at Chu Yi, then at De Xiaoyun, not knowing who to help. Seeing that the two of them were about to start fighting, Bai Xiaochen had an idea in the midst of his anxiety and burst into tears. His cries finally caused the auras of the two young girls to calm down, and they both walked towards Bai Xiaochen at the same time. "Hey, why did you push me?" At this moment, De Xiaoyun reached out and pushed Chu Yiyi. This action almost made Chu Yiyi explode in anger. "He's my nephew, I'll comfort him," De Xiaoyun said with wide eyes. "He's your nephew now but he might not be in the future," Chu Yiyi retorted sarcastically. "Don't you know that Bai Yan has not accepted your brother until now? On the contrary, my brother has been with her for many years and has a higher chance of getting the beauty back than Dikang." De Xiaoyun's eyes widened. No way, was her brother really that useless? And he was going to lose to someone else? "I don't care about that. My older brother is little Chen Er's biological father, so I'm her aunt. Blood relations can never be changed." De Xiaoyun's eyebrows were full of pride. Regardless of whether her own older brother was useful or not, little Chen Er was still her blood-related nephew. Bai Yan was also her blood-related sister-in-law. No matter what, she would have more hope than this wild brat's older brother. "I feel that it's better for Bai Yan to marry my older brother. Little Chen Er likes money so much. In the future, everything in my family will be theirs." Chapter 228 228 De Xiaoyun vs Chu Yiyi, 2. Looking at the two of them who didn't give in, Bai Xiaochen was very sad. Did they not see that he was crying? Why didn't she comfort him first? Little Chen Er, when De Xiaoyun heard that Bai Xiaochen liked money, her eyes immediately lit up. She hurriedly took off the storage bag at her waist and stuffed it into Bai Xiaochen's hands. "This is all I have. Although it's not some gold or silver jewelry, if you sell it, you can probably get quite a lot of money. Take it as a meeting gift from me." When Chu Yiyi saw this, she took off her storage bag without any hesitation and stuffed it into Bai Xiaochen's hands. "I'll give you mine too." Bai Xiaochen looked at the two storage bags in his hands and instantly did not know what to do. "You want to compete with me?" De Xiaoyun was so angry that she laughed. She whistled, and at that moment, a white light streaked across the sky, rapidly approaching the ground. When everyone came back to their senses, they saw a white phoenix crashing to the ground. Its snow-white feathers were dazzling under the sun, so beautiful that no one could look away. "This is a white phoenix that I caught on my way here. I see that little Chen Er is lacking a mount, so I'll give this phoenix to you as a mount." De Xiaoyun patted the white phoenix's head. However, the white phoenix is one of the lowest level phoenixes. It's a pity that I haven't found a higher grade phoenix. So, if there's a chance in the future, I'll give you a new one. Phoenix. Mount. Looking at the girl's sweet and beautiful face, the crowd was dumbfounded. Although the white phoenix was the lowest rank among phoenixes, it did not change the fact that it had a noble phoenix bloodline. She actually gave it to someone as a mount. He even said that he would help him change to another one in the future. Chu Yiyi pouted her lips in defeat. She could hand over all her assets to Bai Xiaochen, but she didn't know how to tame beasts. Let alone a phoenix, she couldn't even tame a big bird. "And, Sister Chu, Mother taught me since I was young that a gentleman loves money and takes it in the right way. Although Chen Er loves money, I can't accept your things." Bai Xiaochen looked at the storage bag in his hand with a look of reluctance before returning it to Chu Yiyi and De Xiaoyun's hands. Seeing De Xiaoyun's disappointed face, Bai Xiaochen couldn't bear to see it. However, Chen Er will not reject aunt's gift. "I don't want your family's belongings, but I'll accept this phoenix." In fact, if he had wanted the white phoenix, his mother would have caught it for him. However, he could not bear to continue rejecting De Xiaoyun, so he accepted the phoenix. De Xiaoyun laughed and did not forget to look at Chu Yiyi provocatively. His smug eyes made Chu Yiyi fly into a rage. However, she only glared at De Xiaoyun before turning her head to look at Bai Xiaochen pitifully. "Elder sister Chu, An innocent smile appeared on Bai Xiaoqin's face. Even though Chen Er did not accept elder sister Chu's gift, Chen Er still likes elder sister Chu and godfather very much. No matter who mother chooses in the end, you will always be Chen Er's family. What a sensible child Yingluo. The surrounding crowd couldn't help but sigh. First, he said that a gentleman loved money and obtained it in the right way, making people feel the education that Bai Xiaochen had received. Now, he did not forget to comfort others. Such an obedient child, she really did not know how anyone could bear to hurt him in the past. Some people sighed in their hearts, while others spoke out. For Bai Yan to be able to educate her son so well, she is definitely not like how the Bai family advertised her to be. Moreover, back then, the Bai family almost sold such an obedient child. Just because this child refused, they even set fire to him. Chapter 229 229 Diziaoun vs Chuyiyi, 3. Diziaoun, who had originally wanted to continue fighting with Chuyiyi, suddenly heard a sigh from the crowd. She was so angry that she was furious. What? Selling my nephew? And set him on fire? Which bastard did it? She, the prince of the demon realm, was of such a noble status. There was still someone who dared to sell it? At the mention of this, Chuyiyi gritted her teeth. It's more than that, for the sake of a third-grade medicinal pill, those people wanted to sell Bai Yan to someone else as a concubine. If Bai Yan had not run away quickly, it would not even be known if little Chen Er could be born. There's such a thing. Her sister-in-law was a descendant of the demon realm, her elder brother's destined wife. Someone actually dared to be so impetuous? Wasn't this looking down on her demon world? However, at this moment, Diziaoun, who was filled with anger, had forgotten that no one knew about Bai Yan and Bai Xiaoqin's identities at all. How could they not place the demon world in their eyes? Of course. That Bai family is really detestable. Those days, Bai Yan was alone outside, bringing little Chen Er to wander around. Who knows how much suffering she had suffered and how much suffering she had to endure. By the time little Chen Er's grandmaster brought the mother and son back, there was not a single spot on Bai Yan's body that was unscathed. Diziaoun's nose turned sour, and he had the urge to cry. She had been pampered since she was young and had not suffered too much, but she could imagine the days Bai Yan and Bai Xiaochen had once lived. And the people who caused all this were the ones who had hurt them. Wait, did you just say the Bai family? Why does the surname sound so familiar? Diziaoun was stunned, frowning, and pondering. Little Chen Er's mother's surname was Bai. Chuyiyi rolled her eyes at her. No, that's not right. Diziaoun couldn't remember for a while. With a casual glance, she saw Bai Ji standing motionless behind the crowd and jumped up immediately. That B** starred with the surname Bai, she was the one who lied to me just now. Not only did this bastard say that he knew her brother, but he also framed her sister-in-law and nephew in front of her. Did he really think she was an idiot? Chuyiyi followed Diziaoun's gaze and saw Bai Ji, who was standing stupidly in the crowd. Her eyes were filled with anger. This B** tch still dares to come out and show off. When Bai Yan was in the Bai family back then, she was bullied by her a lot. As the saying goes, no matter how much hatred there was, once they met a common enemy, they would all be united. Chuyiyi and Diziaoun were in such a situation. At this moment, Bai Ji was standing behind the crowd, her eyes blank. She didn't understand why things had turned out this way. Shouldn't this Miss De tear the B** starred apart with her hands? How did it become family recognition? It was precisely because Bai Ji couldn't figure this out that she had missed the best opportunity to escape. By the time she regained her senses and was about to leave, she saw Diziaoun and Chuyiyi walking towards her aggressively. That oppressive aura made her swallow her saliva with difficulty. Miss De, you must have made a mistake. It's impossible for Yingluo to be the son of the Kang Emperor. Xiaoun was so angry that he kicked Bai Ji to the ground and stepped on her ruthlessly. You're calling me stupid? You can't even recognize your nephew. What a joke. No matter how stupid she, Xiaoun, was, it was impossible for her not to recognize her own nephew. I'm Yingying. Just as Bai Ji was about to defend herself, Chu Yi's leg came over and kicked her spine. Bai Ji screamed in pain. Yi, what are you all doing? At this moment, a familiar voice came from the side. Chu Yi turned around and saw Lan Xiaoun walking through the crowd with a fiery red fox in her arms. Part 5 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.